kind of
That's good. That's true. Just not as many people.
Yeah.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, December something. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Owner's Box. 11-game NBA slate ahead of us. We really didn't get a lot of clarification, but you get a little bit more information throughout the day. You can really start to dial in the things that we're looking for. I'm excited to play this slate. I think it's hard. I really don't want many changes to come in because I think it's going to be I think it's just a much better version of yesterday. So We'll see how that shakes out. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow us both on Twitter. How's your day going, Adam?
Pretty good. I am happy that we got some clarification on Dallas. That had the potential to make today really suck. We still have the Q tag on Grant Williams, but at least we got Hardaway and Kyrie news.
Yeah, there hasn't been much else after that. But we do know that Dallas is a little bit easier. So to project, that is not necessarily easier to get to.
Well, we just don't have to worry about it breaking to where at 7:30, it's like, oh, you just need every player from Dallas.
Yeah. Those are not fun days. They never are.
Especially when they all end up sucking like last time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got an hour and 10 minutes to get through all of this stuff. Are you ready?
Yep.
To everybody that is here, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. I see no reason we can't run this up to 500 likes when we turn it over to the Deeper Dive crew. We might be starting with the easiest team to talk about on the entire slate. The Orlando Magic are 4-point underdogs in Cleveland, 224 total. The highest owned guy on the DraftKings side is 2% to either Franz Wagner or Paolo Banchero. It's 9% to Banchero on FanDuel, where he's 7,800, but I don't have a single share of this team, and I don't even think I'm close to getting one.
I have, right now, if the slate started, I would have one Franz Wagner lineup out of 150, and that would be the extent of my Orlando. It's a really, really tough team to get to. Not an appealing matchup. Nobody's injured that matters. Pricing looks, it's where it should be. It's just one of those teams where if you just happen to have a lineup that has like a Banchero or a Wagner or a Suggs, whatever, like as just the last guy in happened to show up randomly, fine, but very, very difficult to come up with any actual reason you'd be wanting to get to these guys.
Yeah, number 3 defense in the league for Cleveland. They are, they've got the two guys that cause that defense to be in and playing the minutes they're supposed to in Mobley and Jared Allen. And all of these Orlando guys, like there's nothing different about their rotation. They've been sitting at this spot for a while. They don't have any like new freed up value. These guys are just priced appropriately in a bad defensive matchup. And on an 11-game slate, makes it pretty easy to just cross them off. Cleveland's a little different. We've got Darius Garland at 7,500. We've got Donovan Mitchell at 9,100. They are the only two guys on the DraftKings side in double digits of ownership. Call it around 15%. Jared Allen is at 14% on FanDuel, where he is lucky enough to also have power forward eligibility. I've got scattered amounts of the normal starters for Cleveland. I had a lot more Donovan Mitchell earlier today. As of right now, I'm just neutral on Darius Garland, but I'll take any one of the main dudes, and I'll be happy to skip out on Strus.
Yeah, Mitchell and Garland obviously look fine. I'm not getting too much of either right now, and I think it's just because the field is. Darius Garland pulling 16% ownership, Mitchell pulling 12%. If the slate started right now, I'd have 8% Garland, 3% Mitchell, and I don't think that's really anything to do with them. I think it's just kind of like you alluded to at the top of the show. It's a difficult slate where a lot of stuff looks the same. So I can kind of just play other players at the guard positions that are lower owned and very comparable to Mitchell and Garland. So I think that's sort of just what's happening for me is they happen to be the guys getting a little bit of ownership. And so I'm not getting as much. Not an ideal matchup against Orlando either. Both certainly good players. In the games that they've played together so far this year, 1.28 DraftKings points per minute for Donovan Mitchell, 0.97 for Darius Garland. But like I said, getting under the field on both of them. My highest owned guy from this team is Jared Allen. I have 10%. He's projected for 5% ownership at 6,700. Perfectly fine with that. We know that he's sort of been up and down this year from a production standpoint, even from a playing time standpoint at times. But at that price tag, still has plenty of upside overall. He's played 10 games with Mitchell and Garland, 1.05 DraftKings points per minute, 29 minutes per game. But on a game-to-game basis, you can certainly see better production than that.
Yeah, I have 5% of, or sorry, 4% of Allen, 7 of Mobley, 3 of Mitchell, and then I am getting to Garland. But I tend to run a little bit higher on Garland than the field. So like, if he's getting any ownership, I'm probably going to be joining people in that ownership, and I don't mind it at 7,500. I think that looks good. Tough matchup against Cleveland though, or against Orlando though, for sure. Ultimately, the number 3 defense against the number 4 defense, it's just not all that appealing of a DFS matchup.
Agreed. And yeah, like again, I think the spots that are the quote unquote most appealing are just the ones that are going a little bit overowned in Mitchell and Garland.
Joseph Ramirez, I hit you with the message now. You don't have to retract it. You can bring all your negative Liverpool energy in here, brother. We picked up the dub today, so you can't break my stride. Memphis Grizzlies 2-point favorites in Detroit, 220 total. About 10% ownership coming into Derrick Rose, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson. Same situation as usual for Memphis in that most of their real rotation isn't playing today. So I don't have these guys. I'm very minimal to Rose, to Bane, to Jackson. I'm under on all 3. Wouldn't care if I were over on all 3. Those are the 3 guys that I would probably want to get to, in particular, Bane and Jackson. But I'm finding it hard to get here. I don't totally know why, other than I think these guys are just priced where they should be.
Yeah, they're the only 3 from Memphis I am getting to. I do have 14% Rose, so slightly over the field there. Only 6% Bane, 3% Jackson. I think it's kind of the same thing for me as we just saw with Cleveland. I would certainly be happy to get to Desmond Bane. The positional eligibility is nice, but he is up to $8,900. And so you're just going to have plenty of other good players in that price range as well. He's pulling 10, 11% ownership. I think I can probably find some other guys that are like 5% owned that, I can use also that look very, very similar. So Bane, Jackson, Rose, I think are the 3 that essentially are playable from this team. But the only one that I'm actually getting even to the field or even a little bit above is Derrick Rose at 5,100.
I got 1 share of Rose, but would clearly take more.
Yeah, and he's someone where, that could just very easily get redistributed elsewhere by lock too. It's a good $5,100 price tag, but it's not like he stands out as an elite player or anything.
Helms wants to know how you're feeling about Kimbrel.
I like it.
It's amazing to me that he's still in the league.
I didn't realize he was actually still good last year. Like, obviously, he's not as good as he used to be, but I think I just kind of remembered the NLCS game against Arizona that he blew, and I know enough Philly fans that like hated him that I just thought he was having a bad year. He was still good, struck out like 34% of guys. I was happy with it. Like the guys that the relievers the Orioles were linked to, it was like Josh Hader, but I know they're not giving him a long-term deal and losing a pick. Kimbrel, Chapman, and there was one other reliever that they just like weren't going to give him the huge contract. So I figured they were either going to get Chapman, Kimbrel, or Stevenson. Fine with Kimbrel.
Man, he hasn't been on the Braves since 2014. That's like a full lifetime ago.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Oh man, like in my mind, wow, does that show the innings? Okay, so he threw, ignoring his first year, 77 innings, 62, 67, 61. Those are the 4 years for the Braves. Strikeout rate, 41.5, 50, 38, and 39. I mean, he was just 50. Dude, every other dude that stepped up to the plate was striking out. That is gross. Yeah, like he's 2012.
Right, like he's dropped off a lot, but the drop off is like good. He's still good.
He had a FIP of 0.78 that year.
He was only on the Braves for 4 years.
5 years.
Okay.
But he was only up for like half the year in 2010. So it's like 4.5, really. He only threw 20 innings that first year that he came up. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's longer than that. But like for basically every reliever, you think they're there longer. And it's like, oh, it's 4 years and then he sucked.
Right. Or it's 4 years. I mean, players in general will be like, oh, they were on that team forever. And it's like, no, they were there for their rookie contract and then they walked.
Yeah. All right. You want to go to the Detroit side?
I'd rather talk about baseball.
So would I. You don't want to talk about the Detroit Pistons, the illustrious losing streak. So only one guy on the team is in double digits in ownership. And I think he's really the only guy that we need to actively address. If you want to play Jalen Duren, by all means, do it at 6,600. But 21% ownership coming into a $5,100 shooting guard, Bojan Bogdanovic. He is 6,100 on FanDuel, just FYI. I have 56%. I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what to think about his ownership at this point. All I can do is just assume he's one of the better plays of today.
Yeah, I'm getting a ton. Right now I have 80%, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Don't know if he's going to move back into the starting lineup tonight or not, but he played 27 and a half minutes off the bench. He's a good point per dollar guy. He's just cheap. He's underpriced. He's priced like the Pistons are going to ease him back into minutes, and they pretty clearly are not. So I'm just getting to a lot of him. And it's another play where it stands out on a slate like this, where you don't have a lot of injuries because these teams haven't played in like 3 days. Pricing has adjusted. DraftKings pricing has been tight all year long, but it just, when you get guys that are mispriced, they really stand out. And so when I look at my overall exposures right now, there's like 4 guys that I have a lot of, and then I'm just mixing and matching a bunch of other guys. And Bogdanovich is one of the ones that I'm just getting a ton of. I don't think there's many comparable pivots in his price range. You know, like Derrick Rose is the same price. Sure, Derrick Rose is capable of beating him, but they're not going to project similarly. Bojan just looks significantly better. So I'm getting a lot of him. I am getting to a lot of Cade right now as well. I don't know if that's going to hold or not, but I don't mind it. He's only projected for 3% ownership on DraftKings. He has small forward eligibility now for reasons. Don't know what those are, but it makes him useful. The fact that he can be rostered at forward and he's getting 3% ownership makes him look interesting to me. 1.12 DraftKings points per minute for the season. You know, the playing time's there. Again, there's going to be a lot of guys in this price range that he could become. But, you know, to me, when Donovan Mitchell at 9,100 is getting 10, 11, 12% ownership, Desmond Bane at 8,900 is getting 10%, Cade Cunningham's getting 3%. I love the idea of just playing Cunningham in a lot of the lineups where the field is playing those guys.
How many minutes are you willing to project for Bojan right now? And then let's just assume he's not starting.
26 to 28.
Okay. And if he's starting 32?
32, yeah.
And if he's 32, I'm going to have 100% of him, but
yeah, I mean, right now we have Bojan at 27. I think that's fine. He played 27 and a half last game. I don't want to go too aggressive, like too much higher than that off the bench, because like, sure, the natural thinking is, well, he played 27 and a half immediately. Like now he can play more, but it's just so easy to have random things in the game affect your playing time when you're coming off the bench. So I think it's tough to actually project higher than that if he's coming off the bench, but I don't see any reason you would project it lower.
Right. S&P. Cade Cunningham, small forward eligible. Bojan Bogdanovich, not small forward eligible.
Yeah. Who does Bojan impact the most now that he's back in the rotation? Good question. I don't even know what the Pistons rotation is at this point. Killian Hayes is apparently a starter now. Alec Burks is apparently not in the rotation now. Asar Thompson is apparently a 16-minute per game backup now. So none of that necessarily had to do with Bojan, but they kind of just changed their entire rotation recently anyway. Bojan being back is essentially bad in general. Like I would have said, it's not great for Thompson. It's not great for Burks, but like obviously I didn't anticipate Burks disappearing. Somebody had asked earlier if I thought, I don't remember who it was on the strategy show, and I forgot to answer it, I think. Somebody asked if I thought that Bojan being back would be beneficial for Cade. I think it actually could.
I definitely think it is.
Yeah. I mean, because like it's going to be probably their second highest usage guy, but it's somebody that can space the floor. He can knock down threes, and this team just doesn't have that. And given how good of a playmaker Cunningham is, having somebody that can actually make those shots, and especially like Asar Thompson's not capable of making threes, and now you're sort of just replacing those minutes with Bojan Bogdanovich. That's a nice bump for Cunningham, I think.
Yeah, it's to me just a massive, massive boon for them to get him back because nobody else can shoot. Like of the guys that like really play, Isaiah Stewart shooting 37% from 3 is like the only, like, to get Bojan out there and space the floor and give Cade a little bit of running room. It can only help. It's not like Bojan stepping into 33% usage when he comes back or something. You get a real adult on the floor instead of a bunch of kids and guys that shouldn't really play for the team. So I think that's incredibly helpful. Do you want to get to any Killian Hayes whose minutes are real now?
I have 5%.
Maybe? Okay.
Fields at 4, 5,400. I mean, I have, what did I say? 15% Rose, 14% Rose at that price point. If I ended up getting a little bit less Rose, a little bit more Hayes, that would be fine. If I don't, that's also fine. I still don't totally trust those minutes. Talked about it this morning. I always get nervous when a rotation change doesn't make a lot of sense, you just kind of like wait for the other shoe to drop. So, like, yeah, Killian Hayes started and played 33 minutes last game, but I just have such a difficult time believing Asar Thompson is actually only playing 16 minutes per game. I think Bogdanovich is firmly in his role. Sasser played 16 minutes last game, so it's not like he played a ton more than you would expect. Ivy played 29. Um, I don't feel that comfortable with saying Killian Hayes is just playing 33 minutes a game now.
I agree. Are you playing hockey tonight?
Maybe I forgot to register until right now.
Well, if you need anything in the Penguins Lightning game, I've got boots on the ground for that one. If you need any sources,
Do you know their GM?
I don't, but we could work on it. So I got people in the arena. If we need to like melt some ice or pull a fire alarm or something, I could help you out there. Best I could do. Anything else for the Pistons other than play Boyan no matter what? Potentially play all of the Boyan if he's starting.
Yeah, I think Boyan clearly looks like the priority here. Like I said, Cade right now is one of my higher exposed, rather just low owned guys that I'm getting to. And then Hayes and Duran, I'm getting some. I think they're both fine.
All righty. Well, this part is easy. Schedule for the rest of the day. Not a lot else going on. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. The only way that you can get to that NBA Live Before Lock show is to hit the like button right now and then stay here when we get to... What time is the show over? 5:30?
Hopefully
6:30?
6. 6?
6:30?
6?
Oh yeah, 6. I have it wrong in my schedule. For some reason, I felt like we were starting at 5:30 just because we have for the past 2 days. Yeah, NBA Live Before Lock at 6. Just stay on the stream. That's all you got to do. And then I want you to go to stokastic.com/avatar and load up our logo on DraftKings, FanDuel, Owner's Box, perhaps. Because if you finish in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 entries and you tweet that victory to @StokasticHOF, you get 1 month of whatever Stokastic package you are looking for. That is a $200 value, and it costs you $0 to do this. Absolutely nothing. You don't have to be an active sub for us to use that avatar, but if you want to give yourself a shot at picking up a month of what we have, projections, ownership, Sims tool for the NBA, if that's what you're looking for, you could do that just by loading up our avatar. So click the link in the description or in chat. Go ahead and do it. I got it. Adam's got it. Why wouldn't you guys want to have it? Tokyo, yes, it would. Let's really hope that nothing happens at the Lightning game tonight. They're gonna all of a sudden my wife's gonna be in like a holding cell. What did he do? The Phoenix, I did it again. The Philadelphia 76ers are 10.5-point favorites in Washington, 239 total. 14% ownership coming into Joel Embiid. Single digits across the board for everybody else on DraftKings and on FanDuel. I only have 2% of Embiid right now. I assumed I would get a bunch more. I think he looks fantastic. I would prefer to have him. I just don't.
I do, and I'm very happy about that. Basically,
yeah, I bet you are.
Field, 27% Embiid, 14% owned. Very, very happy to get there. This slate's just weird. Like, I don't like the value that much, but there is value on the slate. I think that he's easy enough to get to, especially on DraftKings. Weirdly, it's going to be more difficult to pay up for the studs on FanDuel tonight. They're just a little bit more expensive than they are on DraftKings. In the case of Embiid, you also have the higher opportunity cost. But on DraftKings, I'm finding it pretty easy to get there. I love the spot against Washington. I think the price tag looks pretty good at 11.6. So, yeah, I have 27% of him. The only other guy I'm getting to at all from Philly is Maxey. I have like 3%. He's projected for 4. Happy to get him where I can, but price tag clearly has adjusted to him being very good at basketball.
I figured out why I'm not getting to Embiid. I'm paying up for 35% of Trae Young right now. So
I'm just glad you didn't say Jokic.
It would have been so fitting. I just being like, well, maybe you should try liking him and getting to him and playing the best player of basketball. Would have been a really good gimmick, but no, I don't have any of Jokic. I think it's just fun. Like, I think all of the cheap center stuff, because I have, 100% of doo-wop. I think it's just funneling me to like expensive guards instead.
Yeah. I also, I just looked, I hadn't looked right now. I don't have much Luka either.
I got 28.
Yeah. So we basically are just doing like the field is projected to be pretty neutral, pretty even on Luka and Embiid. I am apparently turning it all into Embiid, and you're turning it all into Luka.
Yep. Or Trey.
Yeah.
God with the super chat. That's really not going to be helpful for you. Who will shatter the slate? I need to win some big bucks.
I'm going to go with Joel Embiid. Really going out on a limb.
I mean, I'm going to go with Swap Breath because he's the most owned play, and that's the best play of the day, in theory. I
have a hard time saying that any of the guys I'm getting more of than Embiid are going to shatter the slate in any sense of what that phrase means.
Yeah. If you want an actual answer for me, give me DeMar DeRozan. But in terms of my exposure, it is a dude that we probably won't hear from 2 years from now as the 98.7% dude in my lineups. Exactly, guys. Exactly.
We are on the same page.
Oh, boy. I wish I had more of Philly, but I just don't. This is such a great spot, but it's also not that useful.
Yeah.
Not really any such thing as foul trouble off the bench, Rob. 13% ownership to the high man for the Wizards, Danilo Gallinari, which is where we are today. 8% coming into Kyle Kuzma, 8 to Bilal Coulibaly, 18 to Kuzma on FanDuel. I've got 3 of these dudes pretty aggressively from Washington, but I don't want them. Are you getting to your Wizards? Are you being a homer today?
I'm getting to the one that you and I would both want also. The only guy on the Wizards that I am getting a lot of is Kyle Kuzma. 8,500 power forward, pulling 8% ownership. I have 27%.
So do I on the dot.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me it was Johnny Davis, but okay.
1.28 DraftKings points per minute for the season. Not popular. If the Wizards hang in this game, there's a very good chance Kuzma's doing a lot because he's like the only competent basketball player on this team outside of, I guess, Denny Avdia. I like getting the Kuzma at low ownership. It's just another guy in this price range where, not that I think he's necessarily even a better play than like Desmond Bane or Mitchell, but it's just, if they're going to get 1.5, 2x the ownership, why aren't I just going to take Kuzma? Especially at a forward position that generally is going to be weaker than your guard spots too. So I like getting there. The rest of it, I have like 5% Gallo, 4% Kispert, 3% Tyus Jones. Nothing else really showing up for me. Gallo's getting ownership, 13%. Power forward center at 3,800. I get it just from a point per dollar standpoint. He's a forward, he's 3,800, whatever. But the playing time is just so limited for him that it's difficult for me to roster him on slates where he's actually projected to be relatively popular. I like getting him on slates where he's like 3% owned, and I can just say, oh, well, hopefully he shoots the lights out in 18 minutes, and I get rewarded for that. But when the field's actually going there, I prefer just not.
Yeah, I would prefer to just not as well, but that's not the case. I have 30%, which I obviously don't want. What's worse in your mind? Is it playing 30% of Danilo Gallinari or 27% of Bilal Coulibaly?
God, those are both awful.
I really, truly do not want either bit of that.
Yeah. To me, they're both bad because I have no Coulibaly and I have 5% Gallo.
Well, we'll see where we end up there.
I think Coulibaly is probably shooting guard small forward's nice though.
It is. It is.
And he at least has minutes upside.
Yeah, like if Colin Sexton is 17% owned, like I know that's a very different style of play and per minute, dude, but if he's twice as owned and I don't really see him playing a shit ton of minutes.
I don't have him right now either, so.
Yeah.
I am in the process of rerunning stuff with updated ownership and everything, but
I have way too much of your stupid team.
Yeah,
I have 8 different guys.
That's what I had this morning.
I mean, it's 2% Kispert, 1% Gafford, 1% Jones, 3% Shamet. I'm really happy about the Kuzma ownership. I am way less happy about Coulibaly and Gallinari.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the way I have this team as opposed to you.
All right, let's go to Brooklyn then, unless you have anything else for your Wizards.
Nope.
All right, Brooklyn Nets, 3.5-point dogs in Atlanta, 243 total. This is the game with the highest total. No Lonnie Walker in this one for Brooklyn. Everything else is normal for the Hawks. We still don't have Jalen Johnson. No ownership coming into Brooklyn right now. 6% to Bridges is the high mark. I do have to put the caveat on it for FanDuel. Spencer Dinwiddie is 29% owned at 6,600, which is $1,300 cheaper than his DraftKings price. I have 5% Nick Claxton and 2% Cam Thomas. I had a lot more Cam Thomas earlier today, but he is now unowned and basically unowned by me too. So you getting to Brooklyn.
Pulling that page back up. I was getting a lot of Cam Thomas this morning. I am, like you said, not now. I actually don't have any on DraftKings. 9% Mikal Bridges seems pretty fun. I like that I'm getting there. 8,600, relatively low owned, high upside guy. 5-6% ownership coming in. So slightly over the field on him, which is nice. 5% Claxton, 2% Cameron Johnson. So not getting to much here, but Bridges being the guy that I am taking shots on, I think, again, just makes sense. He's 8,600. He's getting half the ownership of Bane and Mitchell and those guys. Why not just get a little bit more Bridges?
Oh man, this is another spot where I fully expected to get Brooklyn against a terrible defense and fast-paced team, and it's just not unlocking them the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam Thomas coming back has a lot to do with that because prices went up. Like Dinwiddie's up to $7,900 on DraftKings. That is a crazy Spencer Dinwiddie price. Bridges is expensive and it's warranted, but Cameron Johnson's salary came up, and then you're just throwing Cam Thomas and his wanting to shoot every possession into this team, and he's not cheap either. He is a little bit less expensive on FanDuel, but it makes it tough to get to him.
The Atlanta side is a little bit different. We've got about 10% ownership coming to Sadiq Bey, Onyeka Okongwu, Bogdan Bogdanovic. We've got 15 coming into Clint Capella, single digits to everybody else. I've got a lot of Atlanta right now, but it's in very different places than the ownership is.
Yeah, I don't have much, and I kind of wish that I did. I'm rerunning stuff now with new ownership, but 15% Capella is my highest owned guy from Atlanta right now, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's right in line with the field. 5,900 is a pretty cheap price tag. I'm only getting 7% Trae Young, which is right around the field and obviously a lot less than you're getting. But yeah, I'm not getting, kind of mixing in a little bit of everybody else. But the only guy I have double digits of from Atlanta right now on DraftKings is Capella.
35% Trae Young, 26% Capella, 15% DeAndre Hunter at 2% ownership, 16% DeJounte Murray at 3% ownership. I do have 5% of Okongwu. I have 3% of Sadiq Bey, 5% of Bogdanovic. I just have a lot of Atlanta, but that works for me.
Yeah, I would like to be getting to this game more than I am. The fact that you're getting so much Trae Young seems really good to me. The only caveat is if it's costing you Embiid, which I don't think it is. I think your Luka's costing you Embiid, but I would rather have Embiid than Trae Young. But if that were just the comparison, but it's not. I think that Trae Young looks good. Like I would like to have more. I also get why he's only 7% owned though. That salary coming up to 10,300 is a lot. And while we do have a couple of very, very popular value pieces, it's really only a couple. This is not one of those slates where there's like a bunch of 4K guys and it's just a matter of hoping you land on the right one. You have a few 4K or below guys that are extremely popular, and then you kind of just don't have things that you're going to play.
I agree with you on the reason of it being Luka that's stopping me from getting to Embiid. I think the real issue is just simply if I have Reith and everything, I'm also just getting the guards instead of Embiid. It's just easier to find that roster spot. Like if Reith was just a power forward, I think I would probably have a lot more Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that I'm not having that issue.
Yeah. And look, if I'm going to get Trae Young, even at this elevated price tag in the game with the highest total, I'll take my chances. Brooklyn 19th in defense, and my guess is it's actually worse than that when Ben Simmons isn't around. But yeah, I've got a lot of Atlanta, and I'm all right with it. I wish that I had a little bit more Brooklyn on the opposite side, but
yeah. Tokyo Swan chat said, are the pick six things a competition or just a 6-leg parlay? I haven't looked into it too much, but my understanding is that it is it's peer-to-peer against each other. I don't know how the contests work. I don't know how the payouts or anything work. I haven't looked into it yet, but it is peer-to-peer, and it's what I've said for a couple of years. I think is sort of the end game of sports betting and DFS is a combined game where you play against each other instead of the house.
Yep. I didn't look at it because I'm in North Carolina and I don't have it.
I haven't actually looked at it because I am in Maryland and do have it, but I still cannot find it on the DraftKings page.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The San Antonio Spurs are 12-point underdogs in Minnesota, 230 total. We do have very minimal news here. Zach Collins is available. Devin Vassell is available. We are waiting on the opposite side of very relevant news. Anthony Edwards is questionable. And honestly, if you're ever going to sit somebody out, this is probably the spot to sit Anthony Edwards. It's not making my decisions or anything, but parking him against San Antonio is probably not the worst idea in the world. No ownership coming into this Spurs team, and I don't really have him either. 2% Sohan, 2% Wemby is all I've got. Do you have any San Antonio?
I have 3% Sohan. Like I said, I just reran everything. Most of my stuff looks pretty similar. I have even more Boyan than I did before, but still getting a lot of Embiid. My Cunningham got cut in half. I have 11% instead of 22, so still over the field. Okay. But as far as the San Antonio side goes, not really getting to anything. I think it's just very, very difficult to. Very good Minnesota defense. San Antonio is just another team that is at this point priced up. Clearly, Wemby gives you a nice ceiling, but there's nothing really separating Wemby from all the other guys in his price range. I'm still getting a good amount of Kuzma in that price range, by the way. So, yeah, nothing really for me from San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Karl Anthony Towns on the opposite side of this game with the better option, like with the better matchup at the same price and position and stuff. And I'm still not getting to Towns. So going to be harder to get to Wemby. 14% ownership coming into the Q tag on Anthony Edwards, 10 to Rudy Gobert, single digits to the rest of these guys. Connolly getting 19% on FanDuel, where he's only 5,700. I'm doubling up on Anthony Edwards right now. I have 24%. I certainly hope that holds. I don't mind that in any way. I have a little bit of Naz Reid, a little bit of Rudy Gobert, finding it difficult to get to everybody else, but we could also see this entire Minnesota team look dramatically different if Anthony Edwards leaves.
Yeah, Minnesota has the potential to
Landry Shamet out.
Jordan Poole, questionable. Was he already questionable?
Yeah, Jordan Poole and Johnny Davis are both questionable.
Okay. I mean, Shamet being out is probably good for all your Gallo. Koulibaly.
Yeah.
Koulibaly probably more than Gallo.
Yeah, I don't know how much it matters. Like, I think he's just getting those minutes one way or the other.
Yeah, I just like Gallo again. I'm going with.
I just feel better about those guys.
What'd you say?
Like, it takes away some of their like downside floor outcomes.
Right. Agreed. I'm right around the field now on Edwards. I'm doubling up on Gobert, which I really like in this spot. He's getting 10% ownership. I have 20. Absolutely love that at 7,300. Think he has a very high ceiling here. Again, Edwards looks good. I'm right around the field. I wish he had small forward eligibility. I'm a little over the field on Conley at 6,100. I'm a little bit over on Naz Reid. I have 12% Conley, 11% Reid. Only getting to 2% Towns, which so is the field, but I certainly expect to get more if Edwards is ruled out. Yeah. But with Edwards projected in, I'm over the field on Minnesota in general, which I do like in this spot against San Antonio. Gobert, Conley, Reid, the guys specifically that I'm over the field on.
Yeah, like Towns gets such a massive usage bump if Edwards is out that he's going to start looking really, really like a fantastic option for today. Right.
On average, when Edwards is out, Towns becomes Wembanyama, except Towns gets to face the Spurs instead of the Wolves.
Yeah, it's going to be like I already have him as a close to 5x play already, and that is just going to blow up if Edwards leaves. So, like it a lot. Thought I was going to have more Gobert. That's come down a little bit. I think it's just more hemorrhaging centers. Alrighty. Get your boy. I'm going to get your projections for that one.
Yeah.
Jared, you can put the checkbox in the Jared Allen column, get a little bit more. Anything else that we should touch on for Minnesota?
Jared Allen plus 20%.
Yeah. Let's have a quick discussion about what Landry Shamet being out means. Do you think we go, assuming Poole and Johnny Davis are in, do you think we get a new guy in the rotation, or do you think they go 9?
I think Johnny. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Were you including Johnny Davis in the 9?
Well, it would have been 10 with Davis in.
Right. So I think they go 9. I think Johnny Davis plays if he's in.
Same.
Okay.
And he just soaks up 10-ish of Landry Shamit's minutes, and then you scatter the rest of them a minute apiece to Kispert, Jones,
Right.
Avdia, Koulibaly,
Yeah.
Poole.
I mean, they could, I guess, throw Umar in. Like, he's been good in his limited garbage time samples.
Arcathel's is saying he already got ruled out, but I don't see that in the injury report.
It's entirely possible that I saw Johnny Davis out and just did not even register because
I don't see that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's questionable as of the 4:30 injury report. I don't know if other news came out.
It's certainly not out via underdog. So we'll see. Chase Hughes, the beat writer, said it.
Yeah, 2 minutes ago, Johnny Davis out.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Wes Unseld said he thinks Poole is likely to play. Okay. Yeah, so I assume we're going to get Johnny Davis out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so the previous reports on Johnny Davis were from like 18 minutes ago, but they didn't say the word out. They just said calf strain will be treated conservatively and he'll be reevaluated in a week, which clearly means he's not playing, but I guess nobody picked up on that.
So what do we do here? Do they just bring Muscala into the rotation and play him for 16 minutes?
Muscala.
I'm just saying, like, he's the only guy that ever really plays.
I was thinking Omar Roy.
Do you think it matters that Davis and Shamit are out other than just incrementally bumping up those value guys?
I think Kispert plays a lot now.
Okay.
So like last game, you got 31 and a half from Koulibaly, 20 and a half from Gallo, 23 from Kispert. I think there's a good chance you're getting, 28 to 30 from Kispert now. And if they're ever going to play Gallo more, like he played 21 last game, if they're ever going to just get him to like 24, I would assume it's tonight, but I also just still doubt that's happening.
God, this is going to be gross. I didn't need a reason to get to more Washington.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm done with Minnesota. So I think we could talk a little bit about Owner's Box, the presenting sponsor of this show. Don't be afraid to use that avatar at Owner's Box, by the way. On your first deposit, you can get a little bit of a bonus. I reiterate this over and over and over again, that a bonus is the best thing that you could possibly do to start. I have already cleared the full bonus at Owner's Box. Your first deposit's got to be at least $10 if you click the link in the description. They are going to match that deposit bonus up to $500. Yes, $500. Now, they release it in the form of Owner's Bucks. I think the trickle is like 5%. I cleared it in 6 weeks during the NBA season or during the beginning of the NFL season. Very simple. If you're playing in the NFL contest there, it's fantastic as a setup. It's a super flex, so you don't have to worry about kickers and defense. You just have the fun parts of DFS. They've got the NBA contest going off tonight. Don't be afraid to get into that if you want to. You also get one $5 lightning lineup entry and an additional $5 contest ticket on the house when you sign up. It just gets better and better. But the deposit bonus is really what you guys should be looking for. To be able to double your money on that bonus, that's what you guys should be looking for over and over and over again. And that's what you can get by signing up at Owner's Box. We've got Owner's Box for the sim tools on the NFL side, if that's what you're looking for. I assume we have it for the NBA as well. Projections and stuff on the website. Guys, go check out Owner's Box, but lock in that deposit bonus. Don't sleep on it. That's the most important thing you're going to do. All right, let's go to the Miami Heat. 4-point dogs in Toronto, 220 total. Interesting news for the Heat. Not that it's new. Bam Adebayo out. Tyler Hero out. Haywood Highsmith out. Caleb Martin available. 14% ownership to Caleb Martin. 6 to Orlando Robinson. I'm actually getting Orlando Robinson now. I have 18%. I don't have a single share of Martin or anyone else for Miami. I actually thought I was going to get Jimmy Butler today, but I did not.
I am only getting the Caleb Martin here, which really sucks, and I don't really want it, but I understand why it's happening. That maybe some of that goes away now that we've gotten Washington news. Like I have 17% Martin, the field's at 14%. The assumption, I think, is that he starts in place of Highsmith. He started the second half of the last game. It doesn't have to be him. It could be other people. But if it is Martin, I think he looks okay, shooting guard, small forward, 5,600. But some of that for me now probably does start turning into like Gallinari and Kispert and Koulibaly, given that they're likely to play a little bit more without Shamet and Davis. But he's the only guy I'm really getting to. I was getting Orlando Robinson this morning. I'm not really now. 5K center, 6% owned. I have 1%. I think he's a decent play at 5K. Not a bad point per minute guy. Did play starter minutes last game. Him and Kevin Love essentially split 48 minutes. There's no guarantee that happens again. You could certainly get an ugly center rotation if Love and Bryant are involved. But based on what they did last game, I think he looks good. The reason I'm not getting more, and probably a lot of the field isn't getting more, is that you do have $3,200 Duop Reith pulling so much ownership. Then you have Embiid, who looks very good, and I'm getting to. I think it's kind of just cutting out Robinson a bit for me.
Yeah, 18% Robinson works for me at 6% ownership. Like, I wouldn't want to change that at all.
Yeah. If I weren't getting 2x the field on Embiid, 2x the field on Gobert, I'd expect that I'm getting to guys like Robinson.
Nothing else, though, for Miami?
No, I have 1% Lowry and 1% Robinson, and then 16%, 17% Martin.
Crazy to think about it. Like, obviously, Tyler Hero being out doesn't really matter. Like, he's been out, but to have no Hero, no Bam, and still have Miami be like, eh.
Yeah, and I mean, the spot with Toronto certainly doesn't help.
Juan Soto to the Yanks?
Is that official?
Per the OMG father. Checking my MLB column right now.
I mean, it's been all but done for like 2 days, I think.
Close to being finalized, evidently from 5 hours ago. I don't know if that just locked down now. Can't wait to find out how he's just permanently injured. The new Stanton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
him playing in Yankee Stadium is going to be nuts.
All right, so we just got the 5 o'clock injury report. Still left Landry Shamet questionable, so congrats on that update. That's fantastic work there. And then David Porter is claiming Anthony Simons is in. There's no record of that in any tweets or on the injury report, so don't do that shit. Want to go to Toronto?
Yeah.
Raptors, not a ton of ownership coming in here. Single digits across the board on DraftKings. 14% to Pascal Siakam on FanDuel. I have scattered amounts of most of the starters and a sizable stand on OG Anunoby because that is how I roll. What are you doing here?
Jonathan Isaac out for Orlando, I don't think should matter today. For the Toronto side, getting to 15% Siakam, so another power forward that I'm over the field on. He's only getting 3.5% ownership. I like that at 8,400. Certainly don't mind getting to him at low ownership. OG's showing up 11% of the time for me at 8% owned, so I'm a little bit over on that. And then just getting the small amounts of Barnes, Pirtle, Schroeder. So I have all 5 of the starters in at least a couple of lineups, but taking my biggest stand, at least right now, on Siakam, and then a little bit over on Anunoby as well.
Yeah, 31% Anunoby, which I'm okay with. It's not too much, but anything more than that, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to get a little bit less. No, 2% Scotty Barnes, 9% Siakam, so I'm kind of joining you there. 6% Jake Puddle. It's hard for any of these guys to just really stand out in this kind of matchup. Although Miami 11th in defense, and I imagine that is well lower when it's not Bam. Have to imagine that the defense is bottom 10%. Oh, man. Anything else for Toronto?
No. To clarify the Johnny Davis thing, you should always listen to the NBA injury report, except for when you shouldn't. And this is one of those times where it's been widely reported that Shamet and Davis are not playing, and the Wizards are just like, yeah, screw it, they're questionable.
Yeah. And ultimately, that information will be corrected on the injury report, full stop, at some point in time, likely on the 6:30. But for this one, not quite. Kelly Oubre will play off the bench. Anything else here?
I thought the Padres would get more, but I guess it is a rental. Michael King was good.
Higashioka.
Yeah.
Charlotte Hornets, 5-point dogs in Chicago, 219 total. Single-digit ownership coming in across the board for the Hornets. You can get to 10% of Miles Bridges on FanDuel. I have 27% Brandon Miller on DraftKings. And again, I don't hate it. Shooting guard, small forward, 5,700. You had somebody in this range that you were like heavy on before. I think Brandon Miller's my version of it.
So I have more Miller now than I did this morning. This morning, I think it was Terry Rozier. I had like 17%. I have 9% Rozier now, but I'm getting to 19% PJ Washington and 17% Brandon Miller. So I am over on those two guys. The price tags just look good. Shooting guard, small forward for Miller at 5,700. PJ Washington, 5,400, power forward center, certainly has a path to closing if he's playing well. And it's just cheap enough where, he can get there regardless. So I'm getting to those two guys. And then, slightly over the field on Rozier, getting a little bit of Hayward, Williams, Bridges. But Washington and Miller are the two that I'm getting to. And I think it just makes sense from a pricing standpoint.
At 9% Bridges, 27% Miller. I'm pretty happy there. I guess we do need to still deal with the elephant in the room for Charlotte. There is a Q tag on Mark Williams, and if he is out, $3,700 Nick Richards will likely look better. I mean, he'll take a giant chunk out of Wap Reith for sure.
I would rather play Richards if Williams is out.
Yeah, I'm really curious. What would you want to project Richards for minutes-wise? 24?
That's my 26? Initial thought. I don't remember what he did last year.
They're now much more willing to use PJ Washington at the 5, which they did not do at all. Or like if this was a month ago, then I'd be like, oh shit, we're projecting Nick Richards for 28 to 30.
Right. So the second thing I was going to say was I'm already getting PJ Washington, but if Mark Williams doesn't play, I'm going to start getting a lot of PJ Washington. 9 starts for Nick Richards last year, 26 minutes per game. Probably a little bit higher than I'd want to project it, but it makes me think that 24 or so is pretty solid.
He'll be everywhere at 24 either way, so it won't take much. So keep that in mind, guys.
1.1.
That is going to 1.1.
1.1 DraftKings points per minute in those 9 starts.
Okay. Yeah, and even if you want to be ultra pessimistic and call it a minute, 24 fantasy points at 3,700 is a 6.5x projection.
Yep.
That's going to get it done.
Yeah, and for the season, 201 minutes played, 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. For comparison purposes, Reith is at about 0.92 DraftKings points per minute.
Yeah. And you certainly feel way more comfortable going to Richards because they play Richards a lot normally anyway.
Yeah. Richards is already in the rotation. He's a better point per minute guy. We have 9 starts last year, like I said, where he averaged 26 minutes per game. We have 1 start for Reith this year where he played 20 minutes and Jabari Walker played 28 behind him. Like I have no confidence in what Reith's actually going to do today.
Yeah, no.
I would actually be confident in Nick Richards if he's starting.
Yeah, same.
Or I guess
I would be really confident in like the potential of him playing 30 minutes if it's going well too.
Right. The way I'm thinking about it is like I'm with you as far as I have a ton of Reith right now. If he plays poorly tonight or if he doesn't produce, doesn't get a ton of minutes, I'm going to question my process on playing him. If I were to end up Nick Richards starts and I get tons of him and he fails, I'm not going to question myself for 1 second.
No, like Reith could just be shitty, and that's when they finally unearth Moses Brown or some other idiot at the end of the bench for Portland, where it's like Nick Richards is just going to play for the Hornets for the rest of the year as long as he's healthy, and could play his way into close. Like if he's playing well, there's nothing stopping him from closing. I assume they would want to close with PJ Washington. They don't have to close with PJ Washington.
Right. Yeah, my assumption is that the closing lineup, if Williams is out, has Washington, but doesn't have to.
Is it even possible to build a GPP winning lineup around Embiid tonight? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. Let's hit 2 super chats.
Before he comes back tomorrow to tell us that Embiid wasn't in the winning lineup, so you're wrong.
Yeah. Corey Shea, favorite guards or forwards under 3,800?
Now probably Gallo.
Walker's
like 40 something.
Oh, is he? Okay. Gallo.
Yeah, I'll say it's probably Gallo. Yeah, Gallo is already my highest owned guy, 3,800 or less. I just didn't have a lot of him, but
yeah,
I had more of him than, excluding Reith, more of him than anybody else. Now I'm probably just going to have even more.
I don't think that there's anybody else in this range that I actually have.
Yeah, no, there is nobody else that I have.
Like, I can't give the answer of Cason Wallace or Kenrich Williams. Like, I don't believe those answers. They're just in some lineups.
Right.
And then the other one was Robinson or Reith on FanDuel. So I could help you out there if you need it quickly. We're going to have Robinson is 4,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I got it. Robinson's my answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Reith is 4K. Robinson's 4,500. We have Robinson 16% to be optimal. We have Reith not anywhere close to 16%. 1%.
All right.
Like, Reith is a DraftKings play because you get multiple center spots. He's essentially minimum salary, and it's just different roster construction. It's not a particularly good FanDuel play at all.
Well, we got some good plays here, I think. Chicago Bulls, 219 total in this game, by the way, against the Hornets. That's the low total for the day, but we have no Zach LaVine. 10% ownership to Kobe White, 17 to DeRozan, and 10 to Patrick Williams. None to the garbage dump that is Nikola Vucevic so far this season. I have 39% DeRozan, and that might be the play that I like the most today, which is allowing me to think that he's going to end up being 26% owned, and I'm not going to be as happy about it.
Yeah, I have 16% DeRozan right now, so I'm right there with the field. I think he's a good play, small forward, power forward, in a good spot, playing without LaVine, but he is getting ownership. There are a lot of guys around him that I've already, said I'm getting to. I'm getting to Cunningham. I'm getting to Kuzma. I'm getting to, I don't even remember some of the other guys, but I'm just getting like a lot of like 10% to other guys in this range. And so I am still around the field on DeRozan. I have more DeRozan than I do like Desmond Bane right now. Yeah. But yeah, he looks good. Patrick Williams, I'm also getting 16%, Fields at 10, 5,200, good spot. Those are the two I'm getting the most. And then I'm just getting a little bit of Kobe White, Vooch, Caruso. But DeRozan and Patrick Williams are my two double-digit guys here.
They only have 6% of Williams, 3% of White, no shares of Vooch at all. I was really hoping something else would open up here. Is Desumu's price just too high at this point, even with him getting like a chunk of minutes?
I think so. I mean, yeah, I have him at like 20 DraftKings points at 5K.
Magic will start Black, Suggs, Franz Wagner, Banchero, and Batadze.
I thought you were going to say something interesting.
Nope.
Or like different.
Nope. I didn't. It's just what popped up on my watch.
Well, the way you like hesitated, I was just like, shit, we're going to have to figure out if we're playing like Joe Ingles against Cleveland or something.
No, we're good. Race fan said, missed the Atlanta, Brooklyn. Thoughts on Cam Thomas on DraftKings? Uninterested-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I don't have him right now personally. I was not upset when I had him this morning. Like that whole game, I kind of feel this way about this whole game. If I were getting to anybody in that game anybody real in that game aggressively, I'd be fine with it. It's very likely to be a high scoring game. It's just that the pricing on both sides is pretty high.
SportsWiz, you can't say that. You can't say that. It legitimately made me laugh out loud, so I had to just mildly acknowledge it. All right, Oklahoma City Thunder, 2-point favorites in Houston, 227 total. Single-digit ownership across the board for the Thunder on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I've got 5% Kenrich Williams, 3% Cason Wallace, and 6% to everybody's favorite, Josh Giddey. I don't have anybody else here. It's really hard to get to the Thunder, but by all means, get to any one of the good guys if you want.
Yeah, I actually don't have the cheap guys right now. I don't have Kenrich. I don't have Cason Wallace. Certainly, if you're getting a little bit, fine. Just because, like we were saying a minute ago, there's not really sub 4K value on this slate. I am not really needing it. I have a little bit of SGA, a bit less of Holmgren, Giddey, Jalen Williams. So the only four guys from Oklahoma City I have right now are the good, or in the case of Josh Giddey, quote unquote, good players. But the field's not really getting to any of it. 6% SGA is my highest owned guy from this team. It's just tough to get there.
We just got tagged.
SGA? I didn't hear what you said.
No, I got 0.
Yeah, so like that's one where obviously I don't mind having Trae Young, and I probably would prefer having Trae Young if I can only have one. But like having 7% Trey, 6% SGA to me, I like that because I think they are essentially the same thing, even though Young obviously is in the better game. I mean, Houston's an incredibly slow team, solid defensively, and that is not the case for Brooklyn. But
they're both 4% owned. I would love to have like 17 and 17 instead of 0 and 35.
Right. Yeah, like I'm basically with the field on both, 7 and 6. I wouldn't mind just kind of being like 2x on both.
Yeah. Matt Butler tagged us. He usually hits us with some pretty good information on Twitter. Said, notice that Spo said his original plan was to play 3 centers last game. Love off the bench to limit and monitor the minutes. But when they fell behind so far early, he had to play catch up and cut out Bryant. Scares me some.
Yeah, that's a good catch. And it makes sense.
Like
it was weird.
I don't trust coach speak. Let's just put that out there now. But like, that's real. Like you got, it's information I want.
Well, and the other thing that makes me like more interested is it was weird that Thomas Bryant didn't play.
Yeah. And like, I don't know why you would like, I also don't think Spo would say that if it wasn't true. Like, I don't think there's what are you gaining there? Just trying to like placate Thomas Bryant by being like, we tried to play you.
Right.
So I think that's legitimate. Whether that's legitimate today or not, I don't know.
Right.
But it is certainly kind of scary.
It's one of those situations like I try when you have rotation changes and you're trying to, guess what they're going to do, but then also figure out if what they did the previous game is sustainable. I always try and keep in mind what, logically would have made sense. Yeah. And so when Thomas Bryant, at least being in the rotation, logically made sense, and then Spo says, yeah, the plan was for him to be in the rotation, it definitely makes me, I'd said this morning, I didn't think you should be projecting straight 48 minutes for Robinson and Love. I still don't.
All right. Houston side, they've got 10% ownership coming into Şengün, Van Vliet, Jabari Smith, Jalen Green. Tari Eason is he out now or did he just get downgraded to questionable?
He was downgraded.
He's definitely questionable. Yeah, so he's questionable. Jock Landale is out, by the way, if that matters to you. So is Victor Oladipo.
Forgot he was in the NBA.
I have 15% Şengün. I wish I had more. I think he looks fantastic today. There's just only so many center spots unless you're you.
No, I only have 7% Şengün now, which again, I wish I had more. I love getting to Şengün, but that is a change for me from this morning when I was getting 2x the field. Now I'm having trouble getting to him. I'm getting a lot more Van Vliet than I was this morning. I have 28% Van Vliet, 8,200, just playing huge minutes at that price tag. Only 12% owned. I'm happy to get there. I'm getting to 25% Jabari Smith, which is about 2x the field. Just sitting at 6,400 at a forward position is pretty nice. So I'm getting a lot of those two guys. 7% Şengün, like I said, and then it's just 7% Eason, 6% Jalen Green, 4% Brooks. If Tari Eason is out at 4,400, I assume that starts turning into probably Jae'Sean Tate at 4K, shooting guard, small forward.
I need to hide 4 minutes somewhere on the stupid Reggie Bullock. Come on down. I had 4 minutes in for Jock Landale, and I'd rather just move those off of him now while I'm noticing it. Yeah, I have 15% Şengün, 11 of Brooks, 9 of Van Vliet, 9 of Jabari. That all seems fine to me. Man, Jeff, it could be so interesting if Jeff Green got a couple extra minutes at 3,800, but he's just such a bad per minute dude now.
Right, that's the thing. If you give him like Tari Eason's per minute production, you can talk me into taking shots on Jeff Green real quick. But
yeah, like as a Gallo alternative.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, he's 0.73 over the past 30 days, which is probably around where, like, that's where he is in my model. That's where he's probably been for the entire season. So you got a lot to make up for, and he doesn't really get those minutes. Anything else for Houston?
Do you think Jeff Green becomes playable if Eason is out?
Let me just look at their most recent shit.
I thought you were in front of you because I was trying to do the same thing.
I mean, 22 minutes with Van Vliet and Jae'Sean Tate out in 2 games ago. He played 25 minutes in a game on the 12th, 23 on the 10th. I mean, you have to be able to get him to like 21 or 22 to feel good about it. The last time Tari Eason missed a game was November 20th. Jeff Green played 14 minutes. They gave Reggie Bullock an 8-minute stint. And that is also a game that ended up having 23 minutes for Jalen Green, which got soaked up by Aaron Holiday. So they didn't really open up anybody the last time that Eason was out. So I'm guessing no.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Tate played 21 in that. I guess as a side note for anybody, Tate played 21 in that game that Eason missed. He did pick up 7.5 minutes at the end of the second quarter because Dylan Brooks got in foul trouble. So
Okay.
I do think that if Eason's out, Tate looks fine and better than he does now. But
Yeah.
Be careful. Just throw it. Assuming Jayshawn Tate's playing 20+ minutes just because Eason's out.
Shooting guard, small forward, 4K. Like that's a really great position and price for Tate if you could get him those minutes. I don't know if you can bump him any farther than like 20 comfortably.
And I think that might be high. Like 18 is probably what I want to go to.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, final thing that I could talk to you guys about is one, hitting the like button. We're at 200 something. Let's climb that number up a little bit further. And then I want you guys to click the link in the description and go sign up at Odds Shopper. Whether you're on the sports betting side in a legal betting state and you want to shop your lines and take a market-based approach to beating those books, you can do that. Or if you're on the pick'em side, you're hitting up the prize picks, the underdog, the sleepers of the world, you could also take a market-based approach to beating those guys. We've got calculators there. You'll get into the Discord, get the expert picks if you're looking for it. We have added more things to an Odd Shopper subscription, and we have dramatically lowered the price. It's a fantastic product, and I am mere weeks, I hope, away from being able to use the tool on the sports betting side if and when North Carolina goes live. So join me in prepping for it. It's also great for just getting an eye on props and getting an eye on where the markets are on individual players. I think that could help you out as well on the DFS side, but go grab Odd Shopper. Breaking news also, by the way, Anthony Edwards will play today.
Good.
Agreed. Okay. So we go to Utah, 11.5 point dogs in Dallas, 232 total. We have a very ugly Utah Jazz team with no Jordan Clarkson, no Lauri Markkanen, no Kelly Olynyk, no ownership on DraftKings other than 7 to Omer Yurtseven. We've got a ton on FanDuel. Sexton's 16, Collins is 15, Keontae George is 20, Yurtseven's 15, Talen Horton-Tucker's 10. So very different plays on FanDuel. I have a straight bagel on the DK side.
Well, I have way more than you. I have 5% Keontae George and 1% Yurtseven.
Jamming the Jazz, man. Yeah. Talk to me about your favorite team.
Yeah, I mean,
Mormon lifestyle looking good on you, man.
Yeah, good spot against Dallas. Fast enough paced team, not a good defensive team, but just not a lot to like here. Prices have come up. Nobody's that good. Yurtseven's probably giving you like 20 to 22 minutes, assuming he's still starting. Kessler's getting the rest off the bench, but he's up to 6,300. Chris Dunn is back. I think that is noteworthy. He has missed the last 3 games for personal reasons. He is not out today. So whatever random pieces you wanted to play, I'd be very careful with them because Dunn is probably going to step into this rotation.
Yeah, I figure he gets, 16 to 22 minutes, somewhere around there, with no confidence whatsoever for basically anybody on this team today. If you knew Chris Dunn's minutes, he could be awesome as a $3,800 point guard shooting guard, but it is a wild card here.
Yeah. And that goes 2 directions. If somehow like you knew Chris Dunn wasn't playing, then like Samanic becomes interesting at 3K or, other, Taylor Hendricks or
Taylor
something.
Hendricks.
Yeah. But assuming Chris Dunn is in the rotation, I'm not expecting enough minutes for Samanic or Hendricks to be a thing. And if Dunn only plays like the problem is that Dunn could play like 16 minutes, kill Samanic and Hendricks, and also not be good enough at 3,800 that I want him.
Anything else for the Jazz?
No.
All right. So for Dallas, we got our news cleaned up in that we have no Josh Green, Tim Hardaway available, Kyrie Irving available. Still have a Q tag on Grant Williams, which will have a bit of a trickle-down effect. There is no ownership coming into Dallas other than 13% to Luka, unless you play on FanDuel, at which point they fell asleep and left Kyrie Irving at 8,100 point guard shooting guard. Please play him there. He looks fantastic. I've got 28% of Luka right now at 11.7. Just seems like it's easier for me to get to guards. I have a small amount of Derek Lively, which feels great if he can play 40 minutes today. Maybe that happens if Grant Williams ends up out. What do you like here other than Luka?
I have like nothing. On DraftKings, I have 2% Luka, 1% Derek Jones Jr. For me, the reason that I don't have Luka is simply that I have Embiid projected 3 points ahead of Luka. They're the same price, the same ownership. Embiid does come with higher opportunity costs, but it's not like there's no opportunity cost at point guard. There's still plenty of good plays there. And so, yeah, it's just the projection difference for me is getting me to Embiid, which I'm perfectly fine with at the same ownership. That's not to talk anybody off of Luka. Clearly, very good play always, but I am just getting to Embiid over him. Kyrie on FanDuel, clearly just no brainer at 8,100, complete misprice. 9,400 on DraftKings, much more difficult to get to. I don't really have anything here. If Grant Williams gets ruled out, then I probably get a bit more of Derek Jones Jr. maybe, but like he's already 5K. I find this team pretty tough to get to.
Who do we get to? What do we do with, 28 to 30 minutes of Grant Williams here, though, if he's out? Because they don't have a lot of like front courty type people. Like, does Derek Jones Jr. play like 34 minutes?
I was gonna say, I think Derek Jones Jr. plays a lot. I don't know if that
he's played 34, 31, and 33 in their past three. So
yeah, the problem is just at 5K, even if he plays 34 minutes, he's fine.
Yeah.
Like he's not
for sure.
I mean, you can throw him in with like, Patrick Williams, I guess, as like a comparable guy.
Yeah.
But
no Josh Green as well is really causing a problem. Like, do they go to do we get a big jump in Dante Exum's minutes, 4,500? Because he can kind of move up and down the positional spectrum.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking too, is he's at least relatively long. You could just get like Maxence Prosper thrown in there for minutes. I don't think.
Yeah. By the way, 6'6" for Exum, 6'9" wingspan. Like he can step into just about anything here. He's probably just as tall as Grant Williams, honestly.
True. I think, Williams is like 6'7".
Yeah, he's a fire hydrant. Like he's 6'6" per wiki, but like I assume Exum has longer arms than Grant Williams based on just seeing him.
Yeah. Like I wish I could like come up with a way that this impacts Derek Lively and gets him more minutes, but we weren't seeing Grant Williams play backup center. I think maybe it probably helps Lively a bit in that it takes away the possibility of those lineups.
Yeah.
But
they obviously have no problem just continuing to run Derek Lively out there if like things are cooking. So
right.
That helps.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of Derek Lively at 5,500, especially if Grant Williams is out. It seems like it should make him better because you are just, again, you're losing the ability to play like a small lineup with Grant Williams at the 5. You just don't have enough wings to do that anymore. Not that that's what they did last game or we're doing.
We got to keep this one moving. We got a couple of minutes to go. We don't have too much to talk about for 3 of these teams, but for Portland, we have 59% ownership coming into Dwap Reith. We have 49% coming into Jabari Walker and 32% coming into Anthony Simons. We have a doubtful tag on DeAndre Ayton. Jeremy Grant is out. We are still waiting on that news for Simons. I only have 24% Anthony Simons right now. I do not like that. I thought I was going to have like 100. I do have 100 of Reith. And I'm under on Jabari Walker now as well. But I do have 15% of Toumani Camara if you want things to look disgusting.
So I only have 3 guys from Portland right now, which I'm a little surprised by. I have 96% Reith, which I hate, honestly. I hate being overweight on these chalky 6x projected min salary centers. Like the opportunity cost is just so high. But the thing that I think is really getting me there is pricing on DraftKings is tight today. And so, yes, the opportunity cost is high. There's plenty of centers that can just have good games, but there weren't a lot of centers when we went through. There weren't a lot of mid-range guys where it's just like, oh yeah, I think this guy's underpriced and low owned. It was just like, oh, well, they're correctly priced. So it's just kind of reverting me back to getting to him at 3,200, hoping that he doesn't totally suck. And, I am still able to get to Embiid at least, but yeah, I don't love that one. I'm getting to 49% Jabari Walker. He's 49% owned. I like him more than Reith. I thought I would get more of him than Reith. I wish I was getting more of him than Reith. In the last game that DeAndre Ayton was out, you got 20 minutes from Reith. You got 28 from Walker. They barely shared the floor. Now, Jeremy Grant is out today as well. So you could get, there's a couple ways the rotation could go. You could get Walker playing more minutes alongside Reith with Moses Brown as the backup center, or somebody else, I guess, is the backup center, but I assume Moses Brown is the backup center. You could get Jabari Walker still as the backup center. with a 48-minute split. And then you just get more wing minutes for guys like Dybul, Chris Murray, Ryan Rupert, those guys stepping in. There's a lot of ways, Kamara, there's a lot of ways that this could go. But I am getting to Reith. I'm getting to Walker. I kind of wish I was getting more Walker. And then I have 42% Anthony Simons as well, 32% ownership right now. If he plays, I'm assuming he's not overly limited. It wasn't a lower body injury. If he's coming off the bench, I would expect he's playing mid to upper 20s. If he starts, I assume he's playing more than that. You don't have Jeremy Grant's usage out there. Like, it should be the Anthony Simons show whenever he's on the floor. So happy getting to a lot of him. Somebody asked in chat what my plan was if we don't have Simons news. I don't have a great plan. It's basically that I'm going to have a lot of those three guys, so I will be able to swap around a bit. Worst case scenario, he becomes like Scoot Henderson, I guess, which isn't the end of the world. Like, no Jeremy Grant, potentially no Jeremy Grant and no Simons. $5,400 Scoot Henderson is fine, I guess.
I didn't realize that Simons only played one game this year.
Neither did I, actually.
I thought he got hurt after like 6 or 7 games. No, he's played one. He played 27 minutes in one game, and that was it.
But yeah, so I don't have a great plan there. But also, if Simons is out, it is opening up more minutes where like there's just going to be like other guys you can get to on Portland. The problem is just sort of like how it ends up working out salary wise. But like I said, worst case scenario, it ends up being Scoot and then whatever I can get from other teams. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. Norm Powell, if he's at shooting guard. Anything else for Portland? I don't really think there's much else to say. It's either you're jamming a couple guys or you're not.
Yep, agreed.
Highest owned dude on the Warriors is 4% owned Draymond Green. Draymond is 19% owned on FanDuel at 6,300. I have very minimal amounts of Steph and Clay. I don't think Golden State looks very good here.
Yeah, I have barely anything. 2% Dre, 1% Saric, 1% Clay, and that is my Golden State. The highest owned guy here for the field is Dre at 4%.
Yeah. And then we close it out with Denver. 1-point dogs in Los Angeles, 228 total. We are still waiting on news in the Denver game. Jamal Murray questionable. That will play a role. There is no ownership coming into Denver. 3% to a 12-5 Jokic. If you can get Jokic, go for it. I don't see how you can get anyone from Denver otherwise.
I don't have a single player from Denver right now. If I got to anybody, it would clearly be Jokic, and he will project a little bit better than he does right now if Murray is out, but it's still very difficult, especially on DraftKings for me, where you have a $900 price difference between him and Embiid's playing the Wizards. It's really tough for me to get the Jokic over Embiid, even if Murray is out.
Yeah. Straight bagel for me. And then finally, on the Clippers side, we got about 10% ownership coming into Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden. I have a little bit of Kawhi, very minimal amounts of those guys. I think they look totally fine for their prices, but we're talking about guys that are all like 1.1 fantasy point per minute guys now. They're not like elite DFS plays because of the constitution of this team.
And they're in similar price range to DeRozan, Kuzma, Bane, Cunningham, guys that are just, a little bit better. I have 6% George, 5% Kawhi. That's all I have from the Clippers right now. It's not a great matchup against Denver. It's a spot where, any of Kawhi, George, Harden, even Zubats that I get to is fine, but I'm just having trouble really getting to it.
We're going to get I don't mean today, but we're going to end up getting Paul George out in like a week or two, and James Harden's going to be like 7,700 point guard shooting guard, and you're going to have to play 100% of him because he's going to project for like usage and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean not 17% usage?
Yes. Well, we got a hell of a slate on our hands, folks, and we've got NBA Live Before Lock closing it out for you guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay on this stream. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Good luck tonight, everybody.
What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, and we've got an actual NBA slate today. It's not one game, it's not two games. We got 11 games to talk about today. Some players on the injury report to break down. And if you guys could be so kind as to come and like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored tonight by Owner's Box, and they've pushed back the lock of their slate from 7 p.m. Eastern time to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So in the post-lock show, Eric and I, we can build some lineups in the Sims tool, which Jordan will throw up on the screen. We're in the post-lock show. We can see what we get to on Owner's Box, and who knows, maybe there'll be some overlay there because there's been a good amount of overlay on Owner's Box over the course of the season. And if you guys haven't checked out Owner's Box yet, sign up using the link we have below, because when you do, you are going to get a deposit bonus up to $500 when you sign up at Owner's Box. So something to help you build your bankroll there over at Owner's Box. Eric, what is happening, and how did last night's 2-game slate go for you?
Yeah, last night's 2-game slate was okay. Nothing crazy. Obviously smashed the Dennis Schroeder call, but then Mitchell Robinson knocked. It was just awful.
Dennis Schroeder.
Or sorry, not Dennis Schroeder. Sorry, but literally looking at my screen here right now. But this Lakers, D'Angelo Russell being the guy that ends up getting shorted in a playoff spot. Obviously, there was no Dennis Schroeder there yesterday, but I said Austin Reeves, he's the guy you want closing the game. He goes down and, well, what does he do? He closes that basketball game. Was really entertaining day of basketball. So these 2 gamers, while I'm happy that they're over with, I enjoyed the product the last 2 days.
Don't speak too quick. They come back tomorrow. They're not over with. It's right back tomorrow to a 2-game slate.
Okay, never mind. I'm hating everything. But all I know is that we will not be getting off topic here for the next 82 minutes, the way that Greg Ehrenberg might have led us down the rabbit hole the last couple of days. That's for sure. Way to go, Commander.
We'll see. We'll see if we could stay on topic or not.
Also, did Scuba end up getting his iPad with the home button?
Yes, he ordered one from Costco or Amazon or something. He got one. He was supposed to go to Florida today, but unfortunately, he's got a stomach virus. So he is still here, and it's been a whole big to do. While I was eating breakfast this morning, he came up from downstairs to inform me on how many times he'd thrown up this morning, and he was doing a whole acting out of it for me. I was like, dude, I'm eating breakfast. I don't need to hear this right now. He's like, oh, I didn't realize. So anyway, yeah, he's sick right now. But hopefully we'll be on the mend by tomorrow. And then he can go to Florida, because that's where my mom is. And he wants to go to Florida too. He likes being in Florida during the winter, but his tummy hurts right now. NBA slate. We've got 2 players that NBA, this is your fault for getting us off topic. You're the one who brought it up, not me.
Okay.
We only got 2 key players on the NBA injury report for time. One is going to be really significant, at least as far as players who are listed as questionable. And that is Anthony Simons, who could potentially be back in the mix for the Portland Trailblazers. And in general, this is a team that is going to matter for us today, because Jeremy Grant is out, DeAndre Ayton doubtful, not expected to play. So Simons, if he returns, this isn't a guy who's dealing with like a knee injury or anything like that. It was a thumb injury. So I don't expect there to be any kind of real crazy minutes restrictions on a return for him. Now, it's also a tough matchup for the Blazers. They're on the road in Golden State. But let's start by breaking this team down, because this is where all the value is on this slate. We've got a key player in Simons listed as questionable. So starting with Simons, do you think he's going to play today?
Yes, I do.
Same.
You get upgraded to the injury report with like 2 days off, Monday, Tuesday, 2 questionable after being out for a while. It wasn't a lower body injury, which is always something I'm paying attention to that I think can limit your minutes. I think the main thing that probably limits his minutes is that there's a guy in Malcolm Brogdon who's played pretty well for this team relative to what we would expect from Portland. And that's not ideal for him. It's going to come down to what this starting unit ends up being too, because Shaedon Sharpe, whatever you want to do for that song, 34 minutes for him. That's not ideal to have sharing a floor. But then Toumani Camara, Reith, you get some of these other ancillary pieces. And yeah, Reith, somebody we'll definitely be talking about on the show as well. But I think you got to play a lot of Anthony Simons. Multi-positional eligibility, 5,500 on DraftKings. I find him very difficult to get away from on this slate.
Yeah, and if you look at, I'm curious to see what the starting lineup ends up being for Portland, because like, are they going to start Duop Reith? Are they going to start Toumani Camara? What are the minutes going to look like? Because this is a fairly thin team. If we do see Simons getting ruled out, now you and I both think he's going to play, but particularly in the front court with no Ayton and no Jeremy Grant, they don't have that many guys to give minutes to in the front court, which is why that we have, at first glance, you start to look at the slate, and I was looking this morning, just go, why is there so much ownership projected to go towards, like Jabari Walker and to Duop Reith. And then you kind of start to look at the team who's available to rotation, be like, oh, okay, I get it relative to what these guys' price points are. And there are going to be some differences on these guys, particularly across DraftKings and FanDuel, where somebody like Reith ends up in a ton of my lineups on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, let's see, what did I get to him on FanDuel? Reith is in, where is he in my top 150 lineups on FanDuel? Yeah, I'm not getting to him very much at all on FanDuel, where he is $4,000 and only has center eligibility. Whereas on DraftKings, he's about $1,000 cheaper. And then you also have the flex spot you could play him at. So way different looking play where he's going to be chalk on DraftKings, than FanDuel only project for 6% ownership and doesn't look nearly as good. If Simons plays, I don't have any concerns about his minutes. Do you think that there's a chance he just goes out and plays like 36 minutes his first game back?
Yes, I do. I don't think I think a lot of players are going to play more than what's projected today. I mean, this is a day off coming off of 2 days off that's coming up for tomorrow. I mean, there's not a lot of basketball that's being played here with this play-in tournament. And I think that creates an opportunity to give extra run to certain guys. And then Anthony Simons, I mean, I doubt you're going to project him for 38 or 40 the way that I am some of these other studs. And that's why I'm really jamming Reith to be able to get some of those guys. But I find it difficult to believe that you would have Simons with a thumb injury not just play his normal amount of minutes, and that's just going to create 34 for me right off the bat.
So let's look at some of these players from the Blazers, and just in order of priority, who are the 4 Blazers in order you have the most interest in, or maybe it's just the 3 guys?
So I'm going to put this out there. It's going to depend on the starting unit. I assume right now your starting lineup is going to be Malcolm Brogdon. I think he might continue to start here over Scoot Henderson. Why wouldn't he? He's been way better, and Scoot just needs to figure it out. Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Toumani Camara, Duop Reith. I think knowing those 5, it's really hard not to like Simons 1, Reith 2. And then I'm just kind of jamming this team all together. And I think it gives you just an opportunity to play the late swap game as this slate takes place. I think just overloading yourself to Portland and having extra of the lineup spots. Jabari Walker, I think is probably a pretty clear-cut 3 if he ends up being somebody that you're projecting for 30-plus minutes as well. I think that that's going to depend really on your comfortability of trying to, like, is this a blowout? Is this not? I mean, it's a 12.5-point spread. Jabari Walker feels like he'll be in that closing rotation almost regardless, because Kamara hasn't been at times. It just feels like I think Jabari Walker is probably the guy that I just want to play a lot of because of the price point. And then I can turn him into other stuff, pending on how some of the lineups are doing, pending the starting lineup. Just want to get a lot of exposure to this Portland team, which feels gross. But I mean, Simons is definitely clear cut my number 1 because I just feel far more comfortable about him. And I mean, the nice thing about Reith and the 3,200, the reason I'm getting to a lot of him is so I can play some of these other studs that I project for 38, 40 minutes. But otherwise, I mean, he's probably the one guy that's difficult purely because he is at the center position.
And if you guys have any questions for us, you can leave us super chats, you can leave us questions in the Discord channel. We'll be answering those as we go here. So for me, once again, it's going to be different DraftKings compared to FanDuel. But I put Walker and Reith in the same category as my top priority plays from the Blazers. These are the 2 value options I have the most exposure to on the slate. And as of right now, I think both of them are going to start together in the front court. It could potentially be, it could be Kamara over either of them, really. Like, because I can't tell you with 100% certainty if they need to start Reith or Walker, but I'm expecting both of them to start together in the front court. Even if Kamara does start, I would like Walker and Reith more than Kamara. Kamara, $4,500 on DraftKings, but hasn't really shown to be the best fantasy producer this year. And I do think there's more potential minutes upside for Jabari Walker. And Reith, I think, is potential to be a better fantasy producer as a center. And then also just a lot cheaper at $3,200. As a deeper tournament play, I have some exposure to Matisse Thybulle, just because he's somebody else also who you could see end up picking up extended minutes. And he's somebody who does look a little bit better on FanDuel than DraftKings, just because how many times have we seen the Matisse Thybulle games where it's like, hey, look, Thybulle had a 1.3 rebounds, 2 assists, and then 3 steals and 3 blocks. And he looks really good on DraftKings, or looks a lot better on FanDuel than DraftKings. So I think
that's what he's out there to do.
Yeah.
That's what he's out there to do.
Tournament flyers for me on him on DK. And then on FanDuel, I do think he's a little bit more of a priority play. So if I go ahead and look at my Portland exposure they got to on FanDuel, it is Jabari Walker as the best guy. And then there's nobody else really who looks especially strong on FanDuel, because Simons is priced all the way up to $6,300 on FanDuel as opposed to his cheaper DK price. Still playable, but not like a core play for me over on FanDuel. And then Kamara at $4,200 also playable, not a priority. And then Reith over on FanDuel, 4,000, where we can only play one center. So Jabari Walker is the only guy that I would call like a core play on FanDuel. Have you built lineups for both sites or just DK?
Just DK today on an 11 gamer.
All right, so let's go ahead now and check if we got any super chats. If not, we'll talk about the Mark Williams situation. And Jordan, these questions that we have here, how many of them are from this show? How many are from the last show? Okay. So we've got Race Fan 22, who that seems like that's probably a question from the last show, but either way, he said, thoughts on Cam Thomas for DK. Cam Thomas, I'm still very much on the fence with Cam Thomas long-term here, Eric. I know that he's somebody who he's come up from time to time, where I think this is a guy who's going to have to see some pretty heavy regression going forward, because so much of his game has been built on his just crazy ability to make like 65 to 70% of his long twos, which I think is going to taper off. And there just aren't really other elements to his game. He's not filling up rebounds, defensive stats, or assists or anything like that. Tari Eason is available to play today, by the way. He was listed as questionable. So Cam Thomas, I have him in one of my top 150 lineups on DK. Basically a no-go for me.
Yeah, he's tough to get a gauge on, because in 2022, he shot 52% from the mid-range. Last year, 40.4%. So he went from a 95th percentile shooter from the mid-range to around 38th percentile. This season, he's been at 69. So he's figured out a way to get back up there. 46.2% from the mid-range. You brought it up. As good as he's seemed in terms of scoring, he's still only got a 51.7% effective field goal percentage, sitting at 33%. But my major thing with him is that you've seen a 31.2% usage, and it doesn't matter if it's Bridges and Cam Johnson and Dinwiddie and whomever else has been on the floor. They've allowed him to chuck. So I think the points prop is the main thing that I looked at, 20.5. I don't mind a play on the over. I know it graded out well on Odd Shopper today, as well as I was tagging the expert plays, but I think that's going to be the path that I get Cam Thomas. Don't really find him all that appealing for DraftKings purposes, considering 7,100. You're not getting some kind of a discount for a guy who primarily shoots twos, looking for a little bit more upside with the 3-point bonus elsewhere.
Yeah, Cam Thomas to me, and this was, let's see, was this a DraftKings specific play? Yeah, it was. Asking us about Cam Thomas on DK, $7,100. If he just falls off a little bit shooting from his mid-range, and I forget, I'll look it up again, but what did you say his percentage is at from mid-range so far? 69%, Eric?
No. It's 69th percentile, 46.2% from the mid-range. So it's tapered off. He was shooting like a ridiculous 60%, I think, through the first couple games, and then it tapered back to 46.2% from the mid-range. But back in 2022, in 67 games, he appeared there playing 18 minutes per game. He shot 52% from the mid-range over that season. So it's something that he can do. Last year, we saw it phase off considerably, but I mean, that was kind of the difference. 2022, you know, you didn't necessarily see him have to be the number one guy. He did share the floor with Kyrie at times there. 2023 without Kyrie there on the floor and then adding Bridges and such, the mid-range game definitely took some time to come back. But yeah, it's sitting a little bit above average, but nothing crazy good. And then he's a 34.3% three-point shooter on the season. Last year was his best from three, 38.3, but that's nothing that he's really going out of his way to do.
Yeah, I've got it up here now in front of me. 52.8% when he's shooting from 10 to 16 feet this year. And yeah, last I looked at it, he must have just had a couple of really bad shooting games coming back from the injury, because I'm pretty sure this number was like 70%.
It was 68% through the first 4 weeks or first 3 weeks of the season.
And then you just start to look at the overall numbers for Cam Thomas. And it's like, all right, if he's not making those shots, where does the upside come from? Because you just can't expect that he's going to get back to being, a 70% shooter from mid-range. So, I mean, Cam Thomas, I don't expect him to be like an especially great DFS player going forward. He's going to be really dependent on just scoring, which it could happen from time to time, but not for me today. Another question here from Shikari Food. He wants to know, do you guys post prize picks? He needs 6 picks today for prize picks. So I know Eric is somebody who can play prize picks and is in the prize pick streets pretty frequently. I can't from New Jersey. It's not available. We also have pick 6 now on DraftKings, which is going to be interesting. Let's see if we start doing content for that, the new pick 'em product that DraftKings has launched. But we also do have prize picks over an Odd Shopper. So, Eric, if you have any prize picks options that you like today, I'm also going to go to our projections in Odd Shopper. If you guys want to sign up, you can use the link below to sign up, and you can also use the promo code. We can do a head-to-head here. Promo code Lindy, Lindy. That gets you 20% off, or promo code Greg. Choose your fighter. Use either of our promo codes and get 20% off. But, Eric, if you could give out some prize picks options that you like for today, I'm also going to look at our projections here in Odd Shopper to find what projects well.
Yeah, I found a 2-play correlated card that I like. One of my favorite things to do is when there's about a 3 or 4 fantasy point discrepancy between the, like what we have listed at Stochastic, and then the fantasy score, which is directly exactly what you get over on FanDuel using FanDuel scoring. DeAnthony Melton and Jordan Poole both are at 26 for a fantasy score. Posted that over on X at Eric Lindquist if you want to go follow me over there. I am, as of starting tomorrow, going to do Lindy's Pick'em Locks, which I'm pretty excited about. Going to be doing LPL, bringing that to you in short form. So I'll be able to fire up those prize picks and underdog cards for you frequently. I'm going to be doing it very, very frequently in the short streets, but I am going to be bringing those to you. That is my favorite for today. We've got them both right around 29.5 fantasy score for FanDuel scoring, and they're in the same game environment, which I always like. So yeah, you might get both wrong, but the worst feeling is when you have 1 out of 2 and it's like you could have had the correlated play with it. So 26 fantasy score listed for both of them. Love more on DeAnthony Melton and Jordan Poole.
So some ones that are projecting well for us here. Alex Caruso under 13.5 points plus assists. That's one that's projecting well in Odd Shopper. We've also got Dorian Finney-Smith for under 9.5 points that projects well, and not the highest total in the world there, only 9.5 points on Dorian Finney-Smith. But this kind of correlates to Cam Thomas being back, right? Where if you look at Cam Thomas, going to be a guy who takes up a lot of usage in that offense. There aren't that many shots available for a guy like DFS in there. So Dorian Finney-Smith under 9.5 points, that is also one that projects well for us here over an Odd Shopper. So Shikari Food, I hope that helps you build out your prize picks card tonight. Chris Williams has gifted out 5 Stochastic memberships. So shout out to Chris Williams, our Apple friend. Thank you for supporting the channel. Always appreciate it. And anybody else, if you want to support the channel, a couple things you can do is just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then also play with the Stochastic avatar because you can help us while also helping yourself. Because if you win a tournament or just finish towards the top of a tournament and you're using that Stochastic avatar, you get yourself 1 free month of any package you like over here. If you want to use the NFL Sims tool, get 1 free month in the NFL Sims if you finish at the top of a tournament with our avatar. Or if you really like what's that?
Mark Williams ruled out.
Okay, cool. So we're going to be able to talk about that in a second. And obviously now everything that I have as far as lineups goes totally shit.
Yeah, it's dead.
So we'll go ahead and look at that. But first, just letting people know, download the Stochastic avatar and play with that in tournaments. Get a chance to win a free month of a subscription. All right. So big news here. I kind of thought Mark Williams was going to end up playing.
Me too.
But now we're going to have to adjust. Mark Williams out. And then, of course, already for the Charlotte Hornets, there is no LaMelo Ball for them because he is got non-existent ankles that fall apart frequently. So no Mark Williams. What are we looking at from the Charlotte Hornets here?
Nick Richards, PJ Washington to the moon. To the moon.
Yeah,
to the absolute moon.
Who else? Like JT Thor is going to pick up minutes, I assume. Not somebody I'm going to want to play. Just bring him up, though. No. Somebody else who could get minutes in this situation. I guess Miles Bridges probably sees some increase in rebounds. He would look slightly better.
Let me double check. I ran something on this earlier today, so I have a queue already in Wowie for it. But this is not the news I wanted. This game doesn't lock for an hour and a half still. People are going to just flood in and play Nick Richards, assuming that he ends up being the guy that starts. They could go to PJ Washington alongside. Yeah, no, it's going to definitely be Nick Richards more than likely for me. He's 3,700. Welcome to a much better play, in my opinion, than that of Dua Lipa or whatever his name is for Portland.
Dua Lipa, pop sensation, and also Shadows as the starting center for. That's how bad the
She's so hot though. Did you see her with the red hair at the Academy, whatever that was, that gala that they did? It was incredible.
No, I didn't, Eric. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Okay. Well,
I know who Dua Lipa is, and I know she's very attractive, but no, I don't know what she wore at the. I don't know
what she wore attractive.
I don't know what she wore at the gala last week.
She had red hair. It was beautiful. That's all.
I'm sure you've written many blog posts about who the best dressed celebrities were at the gala last week. But no,
what's
I don't know
his
what
name. Dua Reith. I shouldn't ever actually make fun of somebody who has the name Reith during the Christmas season. He very likely could end up being the absolute jingle all the way action. So Dua Reith, I apologize to you and your family.
All right, let's look at Richard. So Richard's price point on DK is 3,700, so fairly cheap. What is he on FanDuel? Old Dick Richards. That's what they call him in the locker room. He is
Eric jamming someone 100% after news, death and taxes. Okay, that's kind of funny. But also, Nick Richards is 3,700, and I'm going to put him in. Just trying to find some old box scores here. Just
remember last year they did. By the way, it's $4,400 on FanDuel. Remember last year the Hornets ran just the dumbest center rotation ever towards the tail end of the year, where they had Kai Jones, they had Nick Richards, and they had Mark Williams, and they would alternate. One guy started, one guy came off the bench, and one guy would be a DNP, and they just rotated every day.
Yep. Awful. Absolutely awful. Those were terrible days.
The point that I'm bringing up is I don't know how much information you're going to get from looking at his minutes as a starter last year, because they were in
that's kind of what I'm running into. I mean, this is like split 24-24, 26-22. I mean, I'm just going to put him in for 20 minutes. I'm going to get him in every lineup. So there it is.
Yeah, I think he's a very, very strong option today. I don't know that I'll find out once we get updated ownership and I can rerun lineups and all of that. I'll have a better sense for I can't tell you definitively what I'm going to do with him until I see what his ownership is and what Reith's ownership is and things along those lines.
So 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. I mean, it's 3,700. You put him in for 28 minutes. That's 30 for a projection, just as a baseline. Like, I don't know how I don't play him just about everywhere. Yep. Assuming that he's starting. If he doesn't start, then that's a whole nother problem. But because of how much Portland exposure we'll probably be having, it shouldn't be too hard to swap and make something work.
And by the way, I don't think he has to start.
No, he doesn't. I'm saying that there's ways that they go like JT Thor, PJ Washington, and then you're just holding the bag. But again, assuming that he starts, go ahead.
They could also go Terry Rozier, Brandon Miller, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and PJ Washington. Like, that's a perfectly reasonable starting five.
They could. Yeah, I said that there's a lot of iterations of things that they can do. Jordan Poole is listed available to play. That's great for prize picks for me. That's good. That's good.
And we've got some other questions that are coming in here. And when we get that updated ownership and the updated projections and everything on Nick Richards, we'll go ahead, we'll pull it up on screen, and we'll break down what it all means. That should be coming to us in a couple of minutes here. We've got the questions to answer here in Discord, though. This one coming from Einsteinium, who said, if we have to roster one of SGA or Trae Young, who'd it be? SGA or Trae Young? Who do you prefer?
Let's pull up the player compare tool while we're at it. I think that's a good thing to fire up so that it's not just our opinion, because we want to be data driven. And I will say, looking at my lineups,
I have the exact same amount of both of them. But I think it's going to be funny. So the reason I don't think this is the best for the player compare tool is because they're in well different price ranges, right? This isn't like a 1v1 comparison.
I have more Trae Young for what it's worth. And I like SGA a ton as a human being and as a basketball player. But I have more Trae Young, which again, I have like 9%, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, SGA is $400 more expensive. So if you just look at it in the player compare tool, it's going to say SGA is the guy. So it depends where you're going to do it, that extra $400. Maybe not. I shouldn't have said they're in totally different price ranges. That's not true, but it's still enough of a gap to where it depends what it is you're doing with that 400. Like, if you have the salary, you're playing SGA over Trae Young. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So it depends how you're asking the question there, Einsteinium. I have, before rerunning everything for the Hornets news, I had 11 lineups with Trae Young in my top 150. I had 11 of SGA. Exact same amount of both of them there.
Dude, I have so much Nick Richards and PJ Washington. It's absurd. it's absurd how much I have of those two now.
You're going to be getting to a lot. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to be getting to a lot of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see a point in running lineups right now until I have the information I need, because or else I'm just going to run it again right after. Let's see if we have. Oh, we do have. Okay, we do have a projections update and ownership update, but I don't think that includes Nick Richards yet, at least in the ownership projections. In the player projection,
and I always want to remind people of this because I think this is kind of important. It's a conversation I had with a buddy yesterday, or I can't remember what slate it was, where we were just arguing about who was in the starting unit in a specific spot. And I basically said, look, a projection is going to tell you that somebody is starting or they are not starting in this kind of an instance. And you need to just kind of know what both of those are. Like, I think Nick Richards, assuming that he starts, I put in for 28 minutes. If he doesn't, I'm still going to get to him in some capacity, I'm sure, but I'm going to put him for 22 minutes and he's probably going to be over-owned relative to what that ownership ends up being. I think PJ Washington still plays a lot of minutes off the bench. I have him for 35 right now. And don't forget, you don't have basketball tomorrow for like every team but the 4 going for the Vegas tournament. So I think there's an opportunity to just extend your best players. I bet PJ Washington closes over a Nick Richards, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there's a true center on the other side in Vooch, that it just makes sense for them to start on that side of it. And so just be aware that like when the projection shows up, it's going to be very volatile from site to site or depending on what you're looking at, because it's saying on the projection, Richards is starting or he is not. And it's going to tell 2 very different tales.
So we have Richards projected for 26 minutes, which gives him a DraftKings projection of 25 points at $3,700, making him for sure one of the best value plays on the slate. Don't know that makes somebody at 25 fantasy points at $3,700 you'd have in like 100% of lineups, but he'd certainly show up in more than half lineups, running lineups through the Sims when I update everything after we get that updated ownership. And then if we look at the other players here, we've now got PJ Washington in north of 33 fantasy points. Our projection on PJ Washington now at $5,400. I'm curious if I end up getting to more of PJ Washington or Nick Richards. Which one of them do you end up with more of, Eric? Or is it just like a ton of both?
We'll tell you here. 62% of Nick Richards. I have 52% of PJ Washington. I have, they are my third and my second. First and third highest owned players on the slate. Anthony Simons in between them.
All right. And then if we go to the FanDuel side of things, where Nick Richards is 4,400, we get to him with a projection of 25.5 fantasy points on FanDuel. And then PJ Washington at 6,100, 32.16. So these guys still clearly both good plays on FanDuel, but not nearly as good as they are on DK. Both of them more expensive. And then you also have the issue, in addition to that, with Nick Richards, only being able to play one center on FanDuel. So at $4,400, when he's projected for 25.5 fantasy points, is he your cash center today? Yeah, I think so. But is he somebody you're playing in 60% of lineups on FanDuel? Most likely not. He's probably somebody who winds up in like 25 to 30% of lineups or something along those lines. Anything else, by the way, that you want to talk about from the Hornets? Anybody else that finds their way into the player pool? Like we only have 6 guys projected for double-digit fantasy points on the entire team.
I mean, the minutes are so condensed and relative to like a normal slate, and you're playing Chicago, which is fun. I mean, this is a spot for me that is just really hard to get away from. I'm trying to run this deal with Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball off the floor here. We have such a small sample size here for Miles Bridges, but you extend that back to last season. We know that he's somebody that you're going to get to more now for sure. 1.18 fantasy point per minute guy in just 47 minutes with those 2 off the floor this season. You go to Mark Williams, got to take him off the floor here as well, but then you're going to get an even smaller sample. As you look at Brandon Miller, I think that's somebody that's still decent enough. 1.05 DraftKings points per minute player, 86 minutes with those 3 off the floor. And then last guy, I mean, Gordon Hayward's just so dusty, but like it makes sense to get to a little bit of it here. I mean, I just am going to have so much of this basketball team. It's a little bit ridiculous. Terry Rozier, love getting to him here. Yeah, LaMelo Ball, Mark Williams, taking both of them off the floor here, running everything. It's just crazy how much you're going to get to this team now.
We've got some super chats to answer. This one from Corey Jordan. Corey's asking, tiers tonight, guys? Yes, sir. I'll rattle off some tiers options that I like. Yeah, no ace of spade. Hopefully everything's okay with our guy ace of spade. So somebody else had to leave the tier super chat. Tier 1, Joel Embiid. Now, this is under the assumption that Jamal Murray plays for the Nuggets, which is why I slightly prefer Embiid to Jokic. If Jamal Murray's out again, then Jokic is the option. But for right now, I've got Joel Embiid in tier 1. Tier 2, that is going to be SGA for me. Tier 3, Şengün. Tier 4, Anthony Edwards was listed as questionable earlier in the day, but he's good to go. He's going to play today with no minutes restrictions. Tier 5, Kyle Kuzma. And then tier 6, that is Kawhi Leonard for me. So hopefully that helps everybody out with their tiers lineups. Corey Shea is asking us, Sokan or Giddey? Boy, Sokan or Giddey? Pull up that player compare tool for this one, Jordan. I can't remember the last. I don't know if I've played Josh Giddey at all this year, to be honest.
Greg has a moral compass.
Well, the problem is that SGA has been really good and Josh Giddey sucked at basketball from a fantasy standpoint.
Probably makes sense. There is positive leverage coming in on Giddey. Who is the other guy?
Jeremy Sokan.
I mean, what a disturbing couple of options here. I like Sohan ever so slightly.
So does the player compare tool, 52.6%. By the way, do you want to hear a funny story about Josh Giddey? So my sister, that like you're gonna find out at the end of the story is pretty quickly. My sister said one of her sorority friends met an NBA player and got his phone number. I swear this is 100% true. Like I'm not bullshitting at all. And also gonna add in that the girl she's a senior in college, so she's 21 years old. So it's not like somebody who's underage. But my sister says that one of her sorority sisters met an NBA player when she was out, got his phone number. And I said, is his name Josh Giddey? And my sister said, yes. How did you know? The odds that it actually would have ended up being Josh Giddey is so ridiculous. But I also made sure, I was like, your friend's a senior, right? And she's like, yes. So I was like, it's all above board. It's not anything that, yeah. But the idea that he would even be meeting college, like very risky considering what's going on with him right now, that he's still meeting college age girls when he's going out right now. So he is, I would think if I was him at this, I would go the Zach Wilson route. Like no chances taken. That would be the safe way to go.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. I will say the one thing that's been a cheat code in America for years is the Australian accent. It would be great for Josh Giddey to flip that narrative. We have, just American standard that becomes the new go-to again, because, Australian guys, they've always had a leg up in that regard. But yeah, let's just all be good people around the holidays. How about that? Or, all the time and not a creep. That's a plus too.
Do you want to keep going?
Nope, I'm done.
All right. We've got another question here from Sean. Sean is saying, sorry, I missed the stream. Could you review the two? Well, I mean, you're watching the stream right now. You haven't really missed that much. But yeah, let's go through the top 2 players at each position. Then after that, we'll do the nuke of the night. We've got the news that we all need. So we'll answer the question right here for Sean. Top 2 players at each position. Then we'll do the nuke of the night. So at point guard for me, that is Anthony Simons and Darius Garland. How about for yourself, Eric?
It is Anthony Simons, Terry Rozier.
All right. Shooting guard. By the way, there could be Hornets guys that end up moving up for me here.
Yep, I have tons of Hornets. It's pretty much Hornets at every position right now.
Oh, I'm like, I've got Bogdanovich showing up a bunch for me at shooting guard.
Oh, buddy, save it. Why would you ruin it now?
Because he wants to know our top 2 players at each position. That's one of them.
Oh, yeah, Bogdanovich, highest at shooting guard. Continue on. Him and Simons 1-2.
Yeah, same. Small. I don't even have small forward. I don't have a single player north of 20% of my lineups.
Small forward's terrible. I mean, this is, thank God, Brandon Miller kind of showed up to some extent here, 5,700. It's the worst position on this slate, not close. I really like Matisse Thybulle. I like that call that you had there. I think there's just some swappability where you can kind of move some stuff around and make it work, but there is no doubt small forward, worst position on this slate by a landslide.
Yeah, it is a really tough one to fill. So I can't even give you a core play because, I don't have a single guy who's north of 20% of my lineup.
DeMar DeRozan's my favorite to get to for tournaments for what it's worth.
I guess I could do this by, all right, who am I? Who's like,
especially because now we want to have a bull to come along for the ride to some extent. And yeah, it's going to be DeMar DeRozan a little bit for me that I'm taking along for the ride.
I mean, I'm overweight to Mikal Bridges, and I guess he's somebody you could consider at 4% ownership. I'm overweight to Scotty Barnes. He's only projected for 7% ownership, but I mean, none of these guys are in a massive amount of my lineup. So
my single entry, I'm playing a lot of single entry today, and DeMar DeRozan's in it now.
Power forward, Jabari Walker for me.
Jabari Walker.
And then center is going to be Reith and Nick Richards.
So PJ Washington and Nick Richards.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I should add PJ Washington to the power forwards as well.
Yeah.
Because when I have everything updated, he's certainly going to be there for me.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully
he's there
that
for
helps
me.
you out there, Sean. And Sean, you didn't miss anything. We still got 18 minutes. Well, actually, we got more than that because we're going to be here post-lock show. So we've still got another 48 minutes left in the show. You can stick around for a while. Corey Shea, do we like Simmons or Lowry revenge?
We like.
Is Lowry going to be vengeful?
I mean, I don't know. He lives in Miami now instead of Toronto. You tell me.
Yeah. Seems like a good deal for him, doesn't it?
Seems like an all right thing as you're reaching your retirement stages in the NBA to relocate to one of the more fun places on earth. Just throwing it out there. And there's no state income tax. Yay, Florida.
Sure too. No state income tax in Florida. Yeah, I think he's probably pretty happy being there. I don't think he has any massive issues with it. Next super chat that we have here is but it's not really something I ever consider is the revenge narrative. Jake Lindland, DK single entry, Richards and Washington in the same lineup. I don't have an issue with that. I'm going to have
You should have tons of it. I have tons of it.
Then he also wants to know his what is our favorite stud and can he fade Bojan? So let's do this first. Jordan, play the nuke of the night because I'm almost positive that Eric's is going to be Bojan Bogdanovic because he's
Sure
the single
is.
most predictable person in the world.
Yep.
And it fits multiple narratives. He's got an exotic player mixed in there. He's got somebody who's won a bunch of prop bets for him. There are so many reasons that Eric is absolutely about to pick Bojan Bogdanovic as the nuke of the night. So Jordan, play the animation. I dare you to try to prove me wrong.
I have it loaded. I have everything ready to rock right now.
All right, Eric, nuke of the night. Now go tell people why Bojan Bogdanovic is your nuke of the night.
Well, Bojan Bogdanovic played 27. Bojan Bogdanovic is the nuke of the night. He always was. As soon as I saw his price tag yesterday, I knew he would be a problem for him. He's the one guy that on every single slate last year, I mean, hey, what's a prize pick you like, Eric? Hey, what's a prop you like, Eric? It felt like it was Bojan Bogdanovic. It opened at like 15.5, 16.5 to begin the season. Then you had Cade Cunningham go out 18.5. We were betting that thing all the way up to like 24.5 last season until we hit the brakes on it. It was just under projected for one of the best shooters. Now, do I expect a 30.6% usage rate playing alongside a Cade Cunningham, alongside a Killian Hayes, Osar Thompson, Duran, Stewart, a lot of these guys, Alec Burks, whomever else, Sasser, Jaden Ivey, so many guys that can eat up more usage than what you had to deal with last year. But the price tag is just asinine, and it doesn't make any sense that Bojan, coming off of what we just saw in the last game with the aggressive pricing that they've had throughout this entire season, is going to be sitting there for such a ridiculous productive shooter like Bojan Bogdanovic at 5,100, fills the shooting guard spot. Only 3 lineup spots are really able to play it, so should keep his ownership in check. And then you just go through the shooting portfolio. 63.2% true shooter last season, 85th percentile, 57% effective field goal percentage, shot 41.1% from 3. He's done that a number of years, both in Indy, in Utah. This guy is just a bona fide shooting stud. So 3-point bonus. Yeah, he's 34 or whatever, but last year, 1.3 expected plus minus, plus 2.5 on the offensive end of the floor. He is by far the best winning piece that this Detroit Pistons team has. It's not going to help them. They're not going to win anyway, but we're talking about Bojan on this slate. He is my dude. It is so good to have Lord Bojan back in the streets.
As soon as I saw today's slate, I had zeroed out in my mind because I knew you so well. I'm like, hey, look, Eric's nuke of the night tomorrow is going to be Bojan Bogdanovic. Yep. It fits all the things he looks for in a DFS play from every single angle.
Yep.
For me, I was kind of unsure about who I was going to go with, but some of the recent injury news I think makes me feel even better about this. Anthony Edwards, who I don't think is going to be crazy popular today. He's projected for ownership in the teens, but nothing like insane or anything. All of the value we have is in the front court. So then you start to look in the backcourt. It's like, all right, where am I going to spend up? And the guy who I'm going to be getting the most of as a spend up option is going to be Anthony Edwards. He is somebody who has shown the ceiling of a real star player, but isn't quite priced like one because he's a little bit inconsistent in terms of the times that he's hit that ceiling. But he was really playing extremely well prior to that hip injury that he had towards the tail end of his last game. So I think he only had something like 31 fantasy points that game. He had a handful of really good games before then. And he's somebody who, like Tyrese Halliburton, who is in the same draft class as him, has really started to ascend into like that upper echelon tier of a guy who's like, oh, this is somebody who's going to be getting, MVP votes for the next 10, 12 years. So give me Anthony Edwards, honestly, where we have a ton of value in the front court, and backcourt is where I'm really looking to spend up. So Anthony Edwards, I do believe when I have everything finished in the next few minutes here, is going to be my most rostered spend up option on the slate. Who's going to be the pay up option that you get to most frequently, Eric?
Well, it's going to change here because we just got Grant Williams ruled out. How do we not get the accompanying news with that? How do we not get the Kyrie Irving news with that? Are you kidding me? All they gave us was Grant Williams. Is that real? Son of a biscuit. I mean, it would be Luka if we ended up getting Kyrie Irving out. It would be Luka by a long shot. He's in my single entry lineup right now. I'm going to probably play.
It wasn't Kyrie ruled in earlier today?
Oh, did I just miss that entirely? Sorry that there are 11 games and I have other things.
No, Kyrie's good.
Okay, good. All right. Grant Williams, he's out. That doesn't really change a whole lot for me. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to play more Luka. I still think that this is somebody that I want to get to regardless of that news. Kyrie Irving, I don't know what to make of those minutes here. I had him in for, how many did I have right now? 35. That's on like, it's weird to say this, but like the lower end of some of these studs that I've been projecting for just 38 minutes in this spot. You have no back-to-backs. You didn't have 2 games the last 2 days for just about everybody. It's just one of those clear-cut spots where you can give studs extra run. And I think that we're probably going to see guys play 40 minutes out of the middle of nowhere tonight. And I think Luka's probably your leading candidate to do it amongst the studs. I mean, you just look at like projected minutes on this slate. We have Fred VanVleet projected for the most, Tyrese Maxey, Kobe White. There will be studs that play 40 minutes considering the scheduling. So I think Luka, we've seen him do it in the past. What did he play with that overtime? He played 41 in regulation against OKC. Is that correct? I mean, that's ridiculous of what we've seen here for that allotment. Put up a smooth 36, 18, and 15. That would be fun to repeat. But Luka Doncic, he's the stud I'm currently getting to the most.
Yeah, it is going to be Anthony Edwards for me, but I don't have an issue with Luka being a spend-up guy to get to a bunch, especially when you consider that we've got guys in the front court with a lot of value. It's going to be easier to spend up in the backcourt there. Let's look at some of these other super chats that we have here. And here, Squeak Diesel. Hi, gents. Favorite center lean, Robinson or Richards? I prefer Nick Richards.
Yeah, going to be a lot of Nick Richards. I just have a lot of Nick Richards.
Daniel Buffington has asked, this is 2v2 here. It is PJ Washington and Cade Cunningham or DeMar DeRozan and Gordon Hayward. Ooh.
I love DeMar DeRozan right now. I'm trying to find somebody to come along for the ride with no Levine on the floor. I like DeMar a lot.
It's tough because I like PJ Washington the most of all 4 of those players.
That's probably true too. So yeah, no, you've really screwed us over there. Play them both and put them all 4 in the lineup.
It's tough. I'll agree with you though. I'll go with the DeRozan because I don't like Cade Cunningham that much for this slate. So I'm going to go DeRozan and Gordon Hayward. Let's bang out some questions in Discord. Banging. And we have JEW wants to know, in 3 lineups, should be locking Bojan. That's a fine player to. If you're playing 3 lineups, Bojan's fine having 3 of 3. Would you agree?
Yeah. It sounds beautiful to me. I only have him in 40% of lineups for what it's worth. I mean, Charlotte really, I was jamming and Charlotte has saved me from myself.
We've got a question here from the Black Mamba. How much will Reith's ownership change with the Nick Richards news? He'll be less popular now. Reith was going to be very popular. We also need to get that Blazers starting lineup, which is going to impact it later, but I do expect Richards to be more popular than Reith, wouldn't you?
I 100% do now.
And that, by the way, is assuming both of them start. If one of them starts and one of them doesn't, then it definitely throws a wrench into this. But I do expect Richards.
And if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Exactly. Which, by the way, isn't true. Because I've had a wrench thrown in my head and I did not dodge it. I've dodged plenty of dodgeballs, though.
Okay. Is this a true story?
Yep.
You've had a lot of weird true stories today. There's got to be some fabrication going on here. Although meeting Josh Giddey, not exactly something to brag about at this point of time. So, or getting hit by a wrench, that seems bad too.
So far, no fabricated stories. Not today, at least. Not today. Next question here is coming to us from Hayes Stable. I mean, this is just going to be an easy one because Eric and I are going to, he wants to know, who is the exotic play of the day? It's Bojan
No, I
Bogdanovic.
don't. I don't ever want to know that. I don't care.
All right, Eric doesn't like Bogdanovic anymore.
No. So sick of this. Jordan isn't even reacting anymore. That's how over this bit he is too. See? I'm not the only one.
Jordan's not paying attention.
Oh, that's probably true.
Trust me, Jordan still enjoys it. I know he texts me about it all the time. Hef Love, DK last man in $9,100 and under. 9,100. That's Edwards for me. Pretty easy.
Oh yeah, I like Edwards too. I guess I didn't even answer that before, but I really like Edwards.
Yeah, 9,100 and under. That's Edwards for me. Super chats here. This one is from Anthony Peters. 5,200 for a small forward. Should he go to Patrick Williams? I don't like Patrick Williams.
I like Patrick Williams more than you do. I'm assuming that. I have him in 16% of lineups. We got to have some Bulls, especially like with how much Charlotte exposure I have. I'm up to 92% Nick Richards for what it's worth, 88% PJ Washington. So that's gotten completely out of control. Anthony Simons. I mean, I'm looking for some guys to come along with this Charlotte exposure, and I think Patrick Williams is fine. Small forward, power forward eligibility. There's extra shots for everybody going around. He's been inflated to a place where it's not comfortable seeing Patrick Williams and clicking on him at 5,200 or whatever that tag is right now, but I think it's justified. And with as much Charlotte as I have, I definitely want to bring a couple of guys along at this small forward position. And I think DeMar DeRozan is one guy, and then getting to Patrick Williams as well. I like getting to both of them a little bit more than the field.
I mean, he's the answer because all the other players at this price point are terrible.
This is true too. This is true. Kobe White, I have 16% of now as well. I want to throw that out there. I think that like the trickle down effect is that I'm trying to make sure that I get to these Bulls because I really wasn't before. And now I'm not forcing it per se, but like definitely giving the old ROI boost to a couple of these Bulls across the board.
We've got another question here coming to us from RaceFan22. Best pay up on DK, I have Embiid. Do you agree? It was Embiid for me earlier, but now we have both Reith and Richards as center options, which is why I prefer to spend up in the backcourt as opposed to the front court. So my favorite pay up is Anthony Edwards today. It might have been Joel Embiid before all this news, though.
Yeah, it's Luka for me. I love getting to Luka. I mean, it's point guard too. I mean, it's just a spot where, you know, we talk about this all the time. It's like the positionality of the stud as well. Like Embiid and Jokic, they're great. They could put up 90 and bury you tonight. Like that's definitely within the range of outcomes, but I will take the shots on the positions where, I mean, Nick Richards on a bad night plays 20 minutes in a starting spot. Like if he plays 20 minutes, puts up 18 or something, that's not going to bury you. But like using that lineup spot on a stud that doesn't go ballistic is going to probably bury you on this kind of a slate.
Is there anything you like more from Dallas with Grant Williams out?
Not really. I was going through, I fixed some minutes for Green, fixed a couple of things for Hardy. Nothing's really popping out for me. I'm curious, do you have anybody? Because like there's minutes there and there's guys that are more willing shooters. I do think this increases like the Luka Doncic assist profile a little bit, just because the guys coming off the bench, you know, you get the Tim Hardaway Jr. piece, but like Grant Williams, well, you know, what's his usage been over the course of this season? Wow. It hasn't been substantial. 13.8%. Anybody that you're filling in next to him there, Tim Hardaway Jr., 23.8%, a couple of extra minutes. Dante Exum's even at 18.6%. Jaden Hardy, 27.2%. There's some shots up for grabs now when you're on the floor next to Luka, but I don't think I'm going to be getting to any of them for DFS.
Yeah, I am. Let's see. I just reran everything. What did I get from Dallas? From Dallas, I got to Luka and then nothing else of significance. I don't have more than 5% of any player on Dallas other than Luka right now.
I will say I'm getting to a decent amount of Jokic and Embiid now. It's just that I have, you know, a center in Richards that I'm rotating, and you know, like I'm not fading Duop Reith, but I only have 16% now.
Here's a question. Super chat from Coley Poston. You have to pick two centers to play in the DK 888. He's choosing between Richards, Reith, and Embiid. Which two should he go with?
Richards, Embiid.
I'm going to say Richards and Reith, but I don't have an issue with Embiid being the guy either.
I just think there's enough ways where Reith gets minutes chopped out. And now we have good value with PJ Washington too. So like that's a piece of that I didn't have a ton of before. And now I have a metric ton of PJ Washington at a low price point. So it's giving me the salary flexibility that I don't have to play as much Reith as I was anticipating. And I think the Sims tool is kind of showing that too. I had to give like a small, tiny ROI boost to get a little bit of Reith because he came up in only 4% of lineups in my last run here. And this is the one I'm going to upload.
I've got my lineups all uploaded now, and there could be definitely some changes that happen based on what that Hornets starting lineup ends up being, what the Portland starting lineup ends up being. So we're going to be locking here in 3 minutes, but guys, don't go anywhere. The next 33 minutes, and Eric and I are going to be sticking around. We'll be reacting to the starting lineups that come out, any breaking news, players that are ruled out, and also we'll build some lineups in the Sims tool for Owner's Box tonight. Owner's Box lock, move back to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So another 33 minutes until Owner's Box locks. So stick around and watch us break down that slate. Do we have any other super chats that came in? No. So let's answer some of the Discord questions here as quickly as possible. Jansen's, Royce O'Neal, or Isaiah Stewart? Neither. I don't think you should be playing either of them today.
Nope.
And then Cream is asking, should we play Bogdanovich and Cade in the same lineup? I don't love Cade today, but I don't have an issue with them being in the same lineup either. Let's see, Cade. I have 3% of my lineups that have Cade. Did you get to him at all meaningfully?
No.
Next question here is from JEW. What pieces do we need from the 7 o'clock games for FanDuel and DK? Let's see, the 7 o'clock games.
Embiid, that's it. And Bojan, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say Bojan. I don't even think you need Embiid though. Like, if you're playing one lineup, if you're playing one, it's Bojan and move on with your life. That's great. The only player you absolutely need to have exposure to from that early game, in my opinion, is Bogdanovich.
Correct.
Early games, I should say.
That
Orlando, Cleveland, Memphis, Detroit, Philly, and Washington. Yeah, that's going to be the only one. I'm just going to say Bogdanovich. The only players I have more than 10% of from those games, I think, are Bogdanovich and Embiid, and it's a lot more Bogdanovich that I have of Embiid.
Yeah, agreed.
And that is just about bringing us to lock. Jeff Green was just ruled out. Okay, who gives a shit? That's not going to really impact our lineups meaningfully. Interesting. We have a starting lineup change for the San Antonio Spurs. And I want to get your reaction to this, Eric, because this could definitely end up being important here. By the way, Olrat 14 asked, how much Kispert did I get to? I have just under 10% of Corey Kispert. Just under 10%. Did you play Corey Kispert at all, really?
No, I hated that play. And I know why he was popular, but small forward, I'm just getting to different options. I did not play. I think I got like 4% of him.
Starting lineup for the Spurs, Eric.
Go ahead.
Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembanyama, Zach Collins, Chetty Osman in the starting lineup for the Spurs today. So what are the Spurs doing here? It's very weird because Sokan is not a point guard. They've been forcing him to play point guard. Wemby's efficiency stats have been insanely different with Sokan on the court versus Sokan off the court. But to me, that's not been because of Sokan individually. It's because Trey Jones is an actual point guard and it just makes more sense for him to be playing with Jones. But now we've got Chetty in the starting lineup. Now, who knows? Maybe Vassell could end up being a pretty good point guard here as well. But I think the big point here is that Chetty is not a bad fantasy producer who's now in the starting lineup. I think he's somebody you want to be swapping to, isn't he?
I don't know yet. This is tough because, I mean, obviously this game locks in half an hour, and this is a nice piece of news to get where we have the option. Chetty, over the course of this season, you said a good fantasy producer, 0.75 DraftKings points per minute in 370 minutes this season with the Spurs. That's not ideal, but it's a question of minutes. Like minutes, that's the game that we play. And then salary, what is he over on FanDuel?
He is, let's see, so 4,300 on DraftKings and 3,900 on FanDuel.
Okay,
so it's all
FanDuel, so I'm saying I think FanDuel he's a better swap than he is on DK, which is kind of counterintuitive because I think, you know, if he knocks down threes, that's kind of what you're looking for. I think at 4,300, it's going to be hard for me to want to get there in any kind of a meaningful way. I mean, unless you think he walks into 26 minutes, it's hard for me to want to get to him and prioritize him over anything that we talked about from Charlotte or Portland.
So Chetty Osman, so one thing about Chetty that we've seen from, and obviously he's in a different situation with the Spurs versus when he was on the Cavs in the past. For a long time in his career, he's kind of had these weird scenarios where teams have been willing to play him just massive minutes when he moves into the starting lineup. Let's see, what have his minutes looked like lately? He played
27 against the Pelicans.
27 off the bench last game. Are they going to play him over 30 minutes?
Well, Doug McDermott's back too. You got to remember that. I mean, Doug McDermott has to play, 8-10 minutes probably? I mean, he doesn't have to, but like I'm going to project him to.
All right, so Doug McDermott.
Let's go to last game. Let's just go to last game, San Antonio, figure out all of the reasons that things are the way that they are. And also, don't forget, Popovich fucking hates us. So you always have to remember that.
We're going to get zero information from last game because last game, Wemby was out, Doug McDermott was out, and the game was kind of a blowout.
Yeah. So this is one of those spots where, Sohan started. They had the Champagne, the guy from Toronto, that ends up in the lineup there. Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins.
They played everybody last game. They played a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Sandro Mamukashvili. Nice to see that name again.
They played a 12-man
he had
rotation.
first quarter rotation minutes too. So I mean, I just want to throw that out there. 316 there. Yeah, for me, this is going to get. I'm probably not going to play Chetty. 4,300. I'm not going to do it.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up getting exposure to him.
I don't think I am. I'm going to update everything. I put him in for 24 minutes, and then I put him in with a 0.76 fantasy point per minute rate, which grades out to a whole 19 and a half. I'm not going to play him. No. Not on this slate. No.
All right, let's see. We don't have a projections update quite yet. We did have Chetty.
The question is, does it affect anybody else? Because Sohan is a guy that, plays with the ball in his hand, 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. Now you're replacing him with a 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy, although one that, from time to time has shown usage. So there's that. But I mean, they're still going to find minutes for Malachi Branham, Trey Jones. You brought him up. And then it's not like Jeremy Sohan's going to fall out of the rotation. That would be really, really weird. I think this is just simply like, hey, we would rather not have our 5 best players on the floor all at once. And then you can kind of, how many teams in the NBA do that? So many. Quentin Grimes starts for the Knicks, 17, 18 minutes. Now, I just took Chetty. I put him to 24 minutes, and I'm not getting to him at all.
All right, let's see what we end up giving him for projected minutes. When our projections update, we'll take a look at that. But a couple other things to do here. We've got some super chats to answer. And then we're going to pull up the Sims tool. We've got a question from
Cam Thomas is starting. We assumed he was going to be starting, though, for what it's worth. Everybody.
Yeah. So our Apple friend Chris Williams has left us a super chat, Jordan. He wants us to look at the showdown contest between the Nuggets and the Suns. So let's build lineups for that in the Sims tool, and we'll look at the results of that. And then after that, we'll build lineups for Owner's Box tonight in the Sims tool. We'll see what ends up showing up for Owner's Box. And in the interim here, we've got a super chat from Austin Semmelman. And Austin is asking us for a FanDuel single entry, Edwards and Richards, or Paul George and Orlando Robinson. That's going to be Anthony Edwards and Nick Richards for me.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I like
by a lot.
Anthony Edwards, Nick Richards side. I like Nick Richards more than I like Orlando Robinson. And then I like Anthony Edwards more than I like Paul George.
A lot of people. I've had more questions from like friends and whomever else today about Orlando Robinson, and I'm confused. Can you answer that for me? Because I've seen that name so much today.
Okay, so Eric seems to be confused why he has friends, and I can't answer that question.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Was that not the question?
No.
Was that how you're
He's 5K. Orlando Robinson is 5K. You shouldn't be playing Orlando Robinson in any kind of like a prominent way here at 5K when we've got guys that I project for just as many minutes and are better fantasy point per minute producers at 3,700 in Nick Richards. Like, that's just asinine to me.
Nick, so I have like a core group of guys at center that are, like Nick Richards, Duop Reith, Joel Embiid, and then, Şengün, Rudy Gobert. So I have so many centers that I get to before I get to Orlando Robinson. Robinson is in one of my top 150 lineups. I'm sure that was just one where it was like the Sims 2 was like, this is the amount of salary we have left. This is the guy who fits in at the last man. And I might update lineups for starting lineups in a few minutes here, and he might fall out of that one lineup entirely. So I am not getting to Orlando Robinson. Yeah, one out of 150 lineups for me.
Not doing it.
We had another question here. This one is from Frankie Lofton, and he's asking Luka and Simons or Trae Young and White. That is Luka and Simons.
Luka and Simons, yes. I love those two today.
Let's look at Showdown for tonight. We've got the question here. This one was from our Apple friend, Chris. Apple
Boats with
friend.
the fur.
No, this is a man of science and technology, Apple.
Boats with the fur.
Yeah, he doesn't sell apparel.
Okay.
He sells technology.
Oh, sorry. You're gonna come in the voice of God. I hope people heard that.
Did you know that? Did you know that you're unmuted when you talk, Jordan? Good. Or are you like me, Jordan? If you were here, sometimes like, how do I respond to this? How do I respond to?
You just don't.
It's impressive.
Carry on my wayward son.
Yeah, I don't even know I don't know what that was at all. That was a cat outside making noises.
Boats with the fur. But it sounded like you said apple
Chris
bottoms.
Williams is dying for us to break down Showdown here. He's a great show, like always. In fairness, he left that super chat before the last 3 minutes of it.
That is fair. That is fair.
Great show, like always. DK Showdown, favorite captains for the Denver Suns game here. And last night he was saying that he went to Durant captain last time when many went Jokic and ended up splitting first. So curious on your all's thoughts for captains and cheapies. All right, so Denver and the Clippers game. And we are getting to a ton of Jokic. So based on the exposure we're getting to here, Jokic is in like half of our lineups. You have to consider Jokic to be the guy to get to. We have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard also in 19 and 14% of lineups, and we hardly get to anybody else. Now, something we should note here, Jamal Murray is officially listed as questionable. We haven't projected as in. I also think that Jamal Murray is going to end up playing, but obviously for a one-game slate, the equation changes a lot if Jamal Murray is in. But we'll start with that. Best guess, Eric. Jamal Murray plays or sits?
I think he plays.
Same. Okay, so that is something that's important to address here. If we're going to somebody cheap at captain, is there anybody you consider for this game? Because we're getting to basically no cheap captains in the Sims, which I am okay with.
I'm super okay with it, considering what you're dealing with on the top end and the fact that like Jokic could put up like automatically needed score. Kawhi, Paul George, automatically a needed score. I think for me, the most intriguing part of playing Showdown tonight is what you are going to do with Jamal Murray if he ends up playing. I don't know what to make of the minutes, but it's always nice to get to quote unquote stud, even if he's going to be like overpriced relative to what we might expect. That's going to be the main thing. I think the one guy that I'm pretty confident that I will get to in the captain spot above other people is Ivica Zubac. He has to be on the floor. They have to have him on the floor with Jokic or they'll just get annihilated. And we've seen, I normally make it appointment viewing to go to these Denver games. This is probably the first Denver game I've missed in, a long, long time when they've been in LA. And I feel as though the Clippers, they always have Zubac out there for crazy amounts of minutes against Jokic and they end up banging it. It's crazy to watch. They go to war with each other, and it's really fun to watch, like right next to the court there. I feel like Zubac always plays extra minutes in these kind of spots, and they don't have the Covingtons, the small ball stretch, Nicholas Batum's on the bench anymore. Daniel Tice has been kind of that guy, but like 22 minutes there against Golden State, that's the matchup you can utilize Daniel Tice. You can't really utilize him here against Jokic and survive. So it's going to be a lot of Zubac for me, probably, if I get to any cheap captains. But as I said, it won't be a whole hell of a lot that I get to any of those guys.
We have Chetty Osman projected for 28 minutes, which gives him a fantasy point projection of 20.5 on DraftKings and over on FanDuel. Chetty projected for 19.73 fantasy points at $3,900. Not the highest priority play in the world, but I'm going to have a couple lineups with Chetty. And if you guys are playing on FanDuel, which Eric had mentioned before, he looks much different on FanDuel and DraftKings. I agree with that as well. Like, Chetty's a very solid play on FanDuel at sub 4K.
Yes, he is.
Let's look at
Just
some of those.
kidding. I'm a liar. I don't like him. I don't like Chetty. I like him on FanDuel. FanDuel, I like him. I don't like him on DK.
Like might be a strong word. He's going to be in some of my lineups.
I don't like him. Bryce Mitchell fighting Josh Emmett, if you didn't see that.
Didn't see it. What I'm sure it's not soon.
Hello?
December 16th. Yeah, so let's go ahead now and look at the
No. Oh.
Is your internet not working?
Oh, you were just cutting out, and it's okay. You're loved. Bryce Mitchell is fighting. He's fighting Josh Emmett.
Or is his brain disconnecting?
It was definitely him, not you.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is.
Oh, it was me? Oh, because I pulled up more tabs to get fighters and stuff. Oh, okay.
Flex plays on Showdown while Eric continues to work on his own brain hardware.
Bogdan -2. Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me? I haven't missed a nuke of the night in like 2 weeks, and now you are gonna come out here and fuck with me? No. Bojan, come on, dude. Don't do this to me.
Is Bojan off to a bad start, Eric?
Got a bucket. He just made a layup. It made me happy. Now I'm okay.
All right. Are we tilting? But by the way, this is the worst. This is the worst game of the season. Pistons, Grizzlies.
Oh, definitely. I mean, 5-14 against 2-18. As soon as I looked at that yesterday, I was like, I'm really breaking this down. But then obviously Lord Bojan returns and all is right with the world.
I brought this up before, though. I aggressively root for the Pistons to lose every game. I want to see them win less than 10 games this year.
Oh, Desmond Bain. He's making some buckets.
I want to see the Pistons.
Bogdanovich steal and assist. Let's go. Oh, Daddy likey. Daddy likey a lot.
All right, there we go. So you were tilting. This is where you know that Eric's really invested in somebody. We've not had a spot like this in the first game of the night where Eric is tilting this hard a minute into a game.
Daddy needs a new bicycle. That's what I need. Lord Bojan has returned to his rightful place at the kingdom of God.
Do you have Bojan bets that you threw into OddsShopper?
Or yes, I did. Yes, I sure did. Expert picks ended up firing it up everywhere. 17.5. Also 2.5 threes. Had a little sprinkle on it. It's since disintegrated into thin air, but it was plus money for most of the day, so that was enjoyable. And then Duran, double-double. Ended up firing that up everywhere as well. You can now, over on Underdog, do double-double, triple-double bets, and you can check and see if they end up projecting out nicely because OddsShopper has the functionality for that as well. And Duran, a Bojan assist, I might be, I might have to leave this stream shortly.
All right. If Eric comes in his pants because Bojan Bogdanovic scores 8 fantasy points in the first quarter, it's the problem.
Bogdanovich assist. Bogdanovich steal on Derrick Rose. He just picked his pocket. Let's go. Grizzlies timeout. 11-9. Eternal power.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other questions?
So Jordan is currently, he's muted. We can't hear him. You guys can't see him. You can't hear them. But Jordan, it just said, because I read his lips, what the fuck? I could tell that was what Jordan just said, talking to himself out loud. And I agree with you, Jordan. This is going to be a little bit weird for me here. We've got some questions that are coming into the super chats. We'll answer these. And then Jordan, build some lineups for Owner's Box in the Sims tool, and we'll pull those up on screen right after we answer these questions. And also check to see if there's any overlay right now on Owner's Box, because it's been something that's happened quite a bit over there. And if you guys sign up using the link that we have below, you are going to get up to a $500 bonus on your first deposit. It's going to be distributed in a drip over there. It's a really good way to get some extra money added to your account there. So let's see if there's overlay on Owner's Box. Pulling up the app here on my phone. Owner's box. I can't read the screen though. It's very hard to see the numbers there. 50% full. All right. So that means that it's 50% empty, which means pretty good chance at overlay over there. Yes. So there are 2,352 total entries in the flagship contest at Owner's Box today. And so far, only 1,188 entries. So we're halfway full there with only 13 minutes to go until lock. So if you guys want to collect some overlay, go and play at Owner's Box before the next 12 minutes expires. And we're going to look at some of the best lineups that we have in the Sims tool for Owner's Box as well. So Jordan, build those lineups, simulate them out. And in the interim, I'm going to answer some of these super chats that we have here. First from Thomas Ryan, who's asking us, DeRozan and Şengün or Luka and Patrick Williams, Eric? He's watching Bogdanovich play. He doesn't even know we're doing a show anymore.
No, I didn't hear anything you said. It had to be skipping out on somebody else. Is that just me? Daniel Gafford hurt going to the locker room. That's not good. For keeping that game intact.
He's operating in another dimension.
Ah, buddy, I can't tell you how good it feels. It says your internet connection is unstable. I don't know what's going on right now on my end. It is a lot. I guess you shouldn't be streaming the game. Well, I just have to be watching this, and I can't be without it. I can't be without everything.
I want to tell Eric not to watch porn during shows and kind of be tongue in cheek about it, but this is
kind of what I'm watching right now.
This is apparently actually porn for him. Watching just the king of exotic players, Bojan Bogdanović, play basketball, and Eric is so aroused that his desk is about to flip over. It's unlike anything he's ever seen before. Oh my God, Bojan Bogdanović steal, Bojan Bogdanović assist. It's an aphrodisiac for Eric Lindquist over there. So
nature's Eric, most powerful aphrodisiac.
Yeah, it is Bojan Bogdanović, as everybody knows. Thomas Ryan asked us DeRozan and Şengün or Luka and Patrick Williams. I'm going to go with DeRozan and Şengün. Eric, if you are of the same planet as us, do you have an answer?
I like all four. Again, I'm going to slightly prefer the first one, but I probably have more of the second one because, I mean, I have a lot of Luka, Patrick Williams. I'll go the first one with you, even though Şengün, somebody I didn't get to nearly as much as I wanted to.
All right. The next question that we have here is from Connor Bishop. Connor wants to know Luka and Capella or Edwards and Şengün for the 888. That for me is going to be Edwards and Şengün. Edwards and Şengün, Eric, or Luka and Capella?
Yeah. I have no Capella, so I guess it would be the other one.
Edwards and Şengün it is. And then Jake Linden wants to know favorite plays at each position on FanDuel. Is this like a lag question? I mean, we'll answer it.
Don't know.
I feel like
somebody keeps saying, is Simons out? Is Simons out? No, Simons is not out. I haven't seen anything with that yet.
He's
still questionable. We got the starting lineup for the Hornets. Richards is starting, so that's important.
Rozier, Miller, Hayward, Bridges, Richards. Perfect. It means we don't have to change anything there.
Lovely.
Really significantly. We've got a question here from Jake Lindland for favorite plays at each position on FanDuel. So I will read this off to you, and let's see if any of these players are guys who have already locked, which doesn't look like it. So point guard, Kyrie Irving, for me, was the one I got to the most. Shooting guard, Desmond Bane. He has actually already locked. Small forward, Jabari Walker. Power forward, that is PJ Washington for me. And then center, Nick Richards. So Jake Lindland, hopefully that helps you, even though I know the slate locked 20 minutes ago. But hopefully it helps you out with your lineups anyway. And who just went to the locker room?
I don't know.
Somebody went to the locker room. I just got it.
Your mother, Trebek.
Oh, Daniel Gafford went to the locker room.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, but you weren't listening to me. Well, sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face on that joke.
In fairness, you were making zero sense. You for about 15
it was cutting
minutes,
out on my end.
For about no. You were not cutting out. You were speaking gibberish.
Yeah,
Jordan, back me up on this.
I was trying to buy
everything Eric said. None of it made sense though.
Trying to buy Bryce Mitchell cards. It wasn't going well.
None of it made sense.
None of it. All right. So
the truth comes out.
Let's look at Owner's Box now. Let's look at Owner's Box. There might be some people here who are looking to build some lineups before Owner's Box locks because it looks like we're going to be getting some overlay. They're only filled a little bit more than halfway, and Slate's going to be locking over there in 8 minutes. So if we go here and look at some of the players, the way that the positions work on Owner's Box, you got backcourt players, front court players, and those are the positions. So it's way more flexible in terms of how you can go about and construct your lineups. So let's go to the exposures first. Just go to the guards, Jordan. Just filter the position, and go G for guard. Or for Greg. There we go. So we've got Terry Rozier, Kobe White, Paul George, James Harden, Jamal Murray as our 4 players here over at guard. And by the way, also there's late swap at Owner's Box. So if you guys are like, hey, I don't want to play Jamal Murray, you don't know what's going to happen, don't worry. You can swap off of him in the same way you do at other sites if Jamal Murray doesn't end up playing. Let's look at the forwards we got to the most now. Forwards. Yeah, so we got the front court players, forward/center. We're going to Jokic, Yurt7, who's still super cheap over there, Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gobert. So those are core plays for you guys in both the guard spot and the forward spot that you could build some of your lineups around. So if you guys are looking to play at Owner's Box, a couple reasons to do it. We got the overlay expected there. You can sign up using the link below, get up to the $500 bonus on your first deposit, and some players to build around. Eric, do you have a Bogdanovich update on it for us?
Oh, he's just continuing to be the beautiful man that he is. 4 buckets, 3 assists, up to 12 DraftKings points. And I am just, 13.5. I mean, this is just chef's kiss. How about this for an after party? This is a good after party that we're having here.
Well, it's not really a party. We're
15.5. Bogdanovich, seriously, my dear sweet God. My dear sweet God, I love you. I love you so much. I love you. I missed him so much. I don't know what it is about our rapport that we just have. We just have a thing, and it's beautiful. And I wish I had this rapport with anybody that I did shows with, because I don't. I just have this rapport.
No, I do not want. I do
Bojan
not want
Bogdanovich. Yes, you do.
No, I absolutely do not.
Yes, you absolutely do. Stop lying to the people.
I'm weirded out. The audience is weirded out. Also, what is his ownership?
Grow up, Peter Pan, Count Chocula.
What is his ownership in the $15?
Not high enough.
Let's see. It is. Oh my God, it is super, super high. What? I don't know if you've looked at it yet. What would you guess his ownership is tonight?
45%. What is it?
I know. I'm saying it's higher. Guess again.
Oh, 55%?
It is higher. I hope Eric is underweight to Bogdanovich after all this. It would be the funniest thing.
I don't know what to believe anymore if that's the case. Hold on. All right. I have...
If we find out this entire time Eric is rooting for somebody who's underweight to the field too.
I only have 56% Bogdanovich.
The field is 56.25%.
I'm 0.25% below the field on Bogdanovich.
You are underweight to Bogdanovich, but I end up with 74% of him.
Okay, so that's wild. 56.25. That's wild. I legitimately have. So simulated player ROI, 32.1%. He was the highest that we had on the entire slate here at Stochastic. For me, one thing that just made sense was that I ended up playing a lot of PJ Washington and Richards, and I'm just hoping that they're somehow, some way under 65%. That would make me very, very happy, and I'd be all right with this. But like Bogdanovich was as clear cut of a guy to get to here on this slate. We'll also say Jokic, Şengün. Those are guys that I didn't expect to see here at the center spot with simulated player ROIs that are pretty high as well. That just speaks to the raw points being attainable with cheap pieces around them.
Yeah, looking through what we've got going on here, other than your significant other, Desmond Bane is off to. Well, actually, Desmond Bane's start isn't that good when you consider his price point. Nick Batum is off to a good start with right around 10 fantasy points. Embiid, okay. 19.5 fantasy points for him. Good first quarter, but once again, he's expensive. You know who actually could end up really being a slate break type player now? Koulibaly. If Gafford doesn't return, Koulibaly could end up getting extended minutes.
I didn't even think about that. He can't possibly be owned.
He's 8.5% owned.
Okay, that's about appropriate. Him and Kispert, I mean, you found your small forward plays, so that's nifty. That's cool.
I'm going to run my lineups through the late swap tool.
Did you end up getting any Chetty after all?
Did I get to Chetty? I actually haven't swapped my lineups since we got to lock yet. So I
would do that.
Like a second here. Yeah, I mean, it's really quick, so it's not something that I'm like super pressed about. Yeah, what's up, Jordan? I answered Frankie Lofton's super chat. He asked Luka. He asked it was a 2v2. He asked Luka and Simons or Trae Young and White. We hit on that one. Both Eric and I said Luka and Simons.
Yep, we did that.
Yeah, we did that one. Don't worry, Frankie, we got you. I'm sorry that maybe it also could have.
Can you play attention, Jordan Klein?
Yeah, we did answer that one, but sorry that we didn't make it clearer when we got the answer, or maybe we went over it too quick, or maybe Eric was speaking in tongues at the point in time. There was a lot that could have gone wrong at the moment that we answered the question.
Noah Rosen, thoughts on PJ Washington not starting? I never expected him to start. He's still going to play a ton. I love PJ Washington today.
Yeah, PJ Washington's still a good option. Still a good option. The thing that we were most concerned about was whether Nick Richards was going to start at center or not.
Yep.
And he is.
And he is, and he should be very, very owned in your lineups.
See if we have any other questions. LKR says PJ Washington only has an 18 PRA prop over on DraftKings. Is that true? Let's see. I also don't think that should be the end all be all of your lineups because, you know, that doesn't take range of outcomes into play, but I'm interested in that. Is that number really that low? PRA. Let me find this game. Where is it? Hornets, Bulls. The PRA for Nick Richards. Player combos. Oh, no. Nick Richards, 21.5. Yeah, PJ Washington. Listen to this, Eric. Would you be interested in the over on this? Now it's been brought up. The PRA for PJ Washington on DraftKings Sportsbook is 18.5 for tonight.
Smash. I didn't see that. That is full bore. So I don't think enough people know that at Stochastic, we have a projected stats page. Like we have stuff that you can double check. As you're building out your own stuff, if you want to get into those streets and you want to get good with Excel and have some fun. One thing I always love to do is just double check NBA Data Central. You can take a look. You go directly to the projections page, and then you can see what that is for yourself, what we have in terms of their minutes, and then adding it all up together. Let me see, because it just got updated 1 minute ago. So that's good to know. I'm going to take a look and tell you exactly what it is there, because I didn't have the time to update it here on my end. Washington. We have them for 16, 7, and 3, basically. That's a lot more.
Can you pull up really quickly? I know the show's about to be over, but we could extend a minute for this. Go to OddsShopper, Jordan, and search PJ Washington. I just want to see what all the best available lines are. Like is 18.5 the best line on the market? Do other places have it lower?
Yeah, I just thought you'd be interested to know I have one Koulibaly
we ran into a roadblock. Jordan didn't know how to spell PJ.
Well, that's not ideal. I'm going to say that's just not ideal.
This is why he's a producer. All right, so the best available line for PJ Washington's PRA.
Dude, he's 18.5 on Prize Picks as well. This is absurd.
Yeah, so most books don't even have it up right now. But I like that over on DraftKings quite a bit, actually.
Again, it's everywhere, and it is awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's hit it right now. PJ Washington. As we're talking about it, the line is going up. All right, there we go. It's max win for me on DraftKings because their limits. I could win up to $65 on PJ Washington's PRA. Yippee.
I will win more.
Better than nothing. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us. Thank you very much for sticking around. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tomorrow, I'm not exactly sure what our NBA schedule is going to be because the slate is extremely weird. We have a 5 p.m. Eastern time start to the slate for a 2-game slate. So depending on what the contests look like, I might end up doing like a solo show later, breaking down the showdown or something. We might just do a live before lock before the 5 p.m. game, but it'll be updated all on the YouTube channel tomorrow. So guys, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that way when we do have the schedule set for tomorrow and the shows go live, you get a notification. Thank you guys very much for watching. Good luck tonight. See you back here tomorrow.